Yeah, 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 yeah. Hey, hey, way too fast. Way too fast. I gotta go. I'm in the zone. Foot on the gas. Foot on the gas. Yeah, yeah, yeah. GPS. I got goals. I know where to go, so I never crash. Yeah. Hey, hey, way too fast. Way too fast. I gotta go. I'm in the zone. Foot on the gas. Foot on the gas. Yeah. Hey, GPS. I got goals. I know where to go, so I never crash. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I'm in the end zone. Where did he go? You way too slow, homie, I been gone. I know you see, I got the wings, homie, I been flown. Me and the team going for rings, that is the end goal. Hey, I go beast mode, all around the world like Eco. I go crazy like CeeLo, can't stop me like Chico's. I'm suave like Rico, can't be mine no repo. This my home like Depot, can't deny like Vito. Hey, hey, way too fast. I gotta go, I'm in the zone, foot on the gas. Foot on the gas, yeah, yeah, yeah. GPS, I got goals, I know where to go, so I never crash. Hey, hey, way too fast. Way too fast. I gotta go, I'm in the zone, foot on the gas. Foot on the gas, yeah. Hey, GPS, I got goals, I know where to go, so I never crash. Hey, hey, way too fast. I gotta go, I'm in the zone, foot on the gas. Foot on the gas, yeah, yeah, yeah. GPS, I got goals, I know where to go, so I never crash. Hey, hey, way too fast. Way too fast. I gotta go, I'm in the zone, foot on the gas. Foot on the gas, yeah. Hey, GPS, I got goals, I know where to go, so I'll never crash.
A storied venue with unique characteristics and a story to tell brings in 14 drivers making history of their own, where the journey to a championship continues in the grassroots for a meeting with The Rock. Welcome to the virtual Rockingham Speedway in Rockingham, North Carolina, where tonight we welcome you to the second race of the playoffs for the 4-Wide Racing TJ's Team Series in Season 6. Glad to have you with us, as always, on the KBueno Racing Network, where, alongside Francisco Bacalhau in the broadcast booth, I'm Kenneth Bueno. Well, what a starter it was at Chicagoland just last week on Wednesday, where we had a winner, we had a ton of storylines, a lot of green flag racing as well, and while Chicagoland poses its own unique challenges to the playoff field, no track can really set the story back and to maybe add some more challenges than Rockingham Speedway, the first time we see it on the schedule since Season 4.
Happy to be back at the Rock, Kenneth, and this racetrack is no cookie cutter. There's no other one like this. The last time we saw real NASCAR races here was in 2013, the Truck Series won by Kyle Larson in that one. But the last time we were here at the Rock, we had Lawson Peel going to victory lane, and it was a very good race that time it was, and I'm excited to see what this one does as a playoff event. Round 2 of the playoffs, that is. As you see on the schedule on your screen, we are going to be going to the Richmond Raceway, followed by the Super Speedway at Daytona, and then the road course at Sonoma. So a lot of wild cards lay in the middle portion of this playoff schedule, Kenneth, which means you have to be very diverse and be very bold in terms of your strategy and what you're willing to do under the green flag runs, because there's a lot of different ways to attack these racetracks, and these disciplines, they can be very difficult for some drivers, and maybe for others it's exactly what they need to balance things out and give themselves that shot for those last 3-4 races as we head to Homestead Miami Speedway. But here at Rockingham Speedway, Kenneth, these guys are going to have their hands full.
tonight and Richmond next Wednesday, part of the short track tenure we'll have in this playoffs before we head over under the lights to the Daytona International Speedway. And there you said it, Francisco, Sonoma, Dover, Pocono, Phoenix, going all the way to Homestead, Miami. You're going to have to master all types of disciplines, and tonight will certainly be a mover into which who can get forward, who will fall back. And speaking of which, we'll tell you about the story of the point standings as things move forward. Francisco Lawson Peel was the highest running playoff driver at the checkered flag from Chicagoland Speedway. Hence, with already all the bonus points he picked up in the regular season, does have the advantage by 14 points over BBR's Jaden Porter right behind him in second. But you look from about second on back, and even through most of the top 14, you don't have much separation at all. A lot of these drivers are within each other's grasp by 1 to 5 points, and many of them, Francisco, tied. How big of a race will this be here at Rockingham Speedway to make sure that drivers get the upper hand over the others, and most importantly, make a gap to get themselves a little bit more comfortable in this run to Homestead?
It is incredibly tight behind Lawson Peel. You see Jaden Porter 14 back, but from him all the way down to Brandon Banks, the following four drivers are separated within a point, a three-way tie for third at the moment between Eric Schaefer, Ethan Fonseca Moreno, and Brandon Banks. And if you decide to throw Kyle Benson in that, 5 drivers are separated by a matter of 4 points, Kenneth. That's 4 positions out there on the racetrack with the 1 point equaling position. That is very, very close. So it's everything is to play for. And if you're one of these playoff drivers, you're hoping, you want to obviously have a good result, but you're going to need some bad luck to head that 12's way just to close the gap in a chunk way, because you're going to be asking a lot to beat him every single week. We just don't see that happening very often. And that's the drivers' playoffs aside. Here's your team playoff format. It is a bracket style elimination. CC Drinking Bros Racing has this first round off as they were the leading team in the regular season. So you see there on the left side of the screen, the 2nd versus 7th being the BBR team versus the 2nd of the Murray Reedy Motorsports group, with 3rd being the main Murray Reedy Motorsports group with Stonks Motorsports in 6th, and Skybox versus the 2nd Drinking Bros Racing organization for the 4 and the 5 spots. So you see that what races pertain to what round, and it's going to come down to 2 teams battling out for those last 3 races to determine which team takes home the official Owners' Championship. And that's going to be an actual first time we settle an Owners' Championship outright in its own way, Kenneth. And it's an interesting format. Can't say I've seen this one.
And also, too, we'll turn up the aggression for a lot of the drivers, even if they're eliminated from individual driver playoff contention. You'll think about an overall team championship, and Drinking Bros Racing 1, that's the team that everyone is looking to chase, and it's a lot of fun to see all the new teams in there. Of course, KBueno Racing, as good as they've been all season long. Skybox, the first official season as a group named Skybox, they've certainly put a stamp on the 2024 season. They'll look to parlay that into a good run for the team championship. Now, before we get into all the storylines of what to face here at Rockingham Speedway for the 14 playoff drivers and everyone else in the field, we'll look into the rearview mirror where Scott Healy picked up his first win since Season 2. Here's what he had to say after the huge W from Illinois.
Oh, it's crazy. I wasn't expecting to win at all, period. But, you know, it's a good thing to win. Haven't won in a while, and it feels pretty good. So starting from all the way to P23 to finish the race in first is unbelievable with the little practice and not getting used to the car. It's a pretty good feeling.
That was Scott Healy, who picked up his first win since Kentucky of Season 2, and the champion from the second season of the 4Wide Racing TJ's Team Series. Francisco has seen a lot of races where he's been competitive, but unfortunately never got the checkered flag. Here are the highlights from the waning laps of Chicagoland. Picked up the pace near the second half, got by the dominant Brandon Hawken, and paved the way to the checkered flag for the first time in that long. And this is the second time, Francisco, we've seen an OG in this series. It was Tyler Murray in Talladega, Scott Healy this time at Chicagoland to break an intensely long winless streak. Scott Healy running with a lot of momentum, even as a non-playoff driver going into tonight.
It was excellent to see the driver of the 64 go back to victory lane. Kenneth, been a while for him since his championship winning season. I know he's happy about that, was really stoked when we talked to him about it. But now that that's done, he's just going to try and go out here and try and win a couple more races. Obviously, is not in the playoff battle, so he just wants to see if he can collect as many as possible, but build some momentum for something to build on for Season 7 in a handful of months. So you see it as some good momentum, something to build on. But now, as these drivers are getting ready to get on the grid, it is time to see where your playoff drivers line up for tonight's action.
Let's get you through the starting grid as we take you trackside for our first trip to Rockingham Speedway since Season 4. We're on the pole. It's going to be the number 3 of Eric Schaefer, lining up a 24.311. He brings his Chevrolet Camaro to the top spot. Jaden Porter for KBueno Racing, the defending champion, finished well here last time we were out in Rockingham, North Carolina. He'll look to complete the same type of run as he rounds out the first row. Ethan Fonseca Moreno, the KBueno Racing teammate, going to run in third. The Rookie of the Year candidate so far. Kyle Benson in the number 38 for Murray Reedy Motorsports will line up on his outside from 4th place. Rookie Trevor Haley with a high qualifying effort from 5th. He'll start there from the green flag in the inside of row number 3. Craig Lounslugger in the 13 machine lines it up for P6 on the outside. AJ Green, the Season 3 champion of the series, will roll off from 7th. Adam Alashire in the number 91 for Skybox Racing will pull away from 8th on the outside of row number 4. Colin Forrester, the Florida driver, will look to run from P9 at the green flag tonight. And the league owner, Tyler Murray, and Talladega winner, rounds out tonight's top 10 on the grid.
Lawson Peel will just miss out on the top 10, qualifying in the P11 position, with Austin Reedy starting in the 12th spot alongside him. Brady Cox in the 78 will be starting in the 14th spot with Kevin D'Elia to his inside, and 13th in that 53 for Skybox. Christopher Bishop will be starting in 15th in the number 42 with Tony Kibbett in the 16th position. Looking back at 17th, it's with Lance Hill in that number 1 in the 17th position, with Curtis Kelly in the 71 alongside him in the 18th on the outside lane. Ryan Candicio, rookie, will start in the 19th spot alongside Brandon Banks in the 54. They start deep in the field looking to try and get some spots to make up for their playoff grounds.
Inside row 11 is going to be the 11th placed playoff driver, Michael Newbra, who rolls from 21st. Scott Healy, last week's winner from Chicagoland, will roll with the first driver not to take a cute time from P22. We're about halfway home. Mikey Neal will be 23rd. Patrick Thompson back in 24th. Wyatt Brackett will roll from the inside of row number 13, followed by Cody Kinsey driving the number 2 machine. CJ Munier out of Drinkin' Bros Racing will be 27th. Craig Parks will be 28th. And rounding out our 29 car field from Rockingham, the number 7 of David Brackett. So we go a pretty decent distance here from Rockingham, North Carolina, about 200 laps, 203 miles, 327.2 kilometers, a little longer, Francisco, than the last time we came to this very racetrack. The last time we had a 167 lapper. You add on to the distance, you bring this track back as a playoff event in the first round. What's at stake here for the drivers, and what are the keys to victory here at the Rock?
Survival is going to be a huge role, especially with this surface. This surface wears tires, and the way the exit of the corner is, especially turn 2, the corner just jumps at you, and it's not going to be very easy. You have to make sure you stay off the wall. You could really damage your race cars around here, and you saw it there on that graphic, Kenneth. 110 degrees on that track temperature. It's going to cool down as this race goes on, as the late afternoon will be among us before this race is over, but still, you have to battle these tough conditions out there on the racetrack, and it's going to be the case for every single one of these guys, but these are some of the best to do it, so you expect them to be able to cope with that. We'll just have to see how they do get around at that, Kenneth. And you know, last year when I went to the Charlotte Motor Speedway for the Coke 600 weekend, I stayed at a friend's house, which was just a couple of miles up the road from Rockingham in a little town called Lylesville, and almost had the opportunity to go out here to the Rock and get a ride around the racetrack. Unfortunately, the person associated was unavailable that day and couldn't give us a ride around that racetrack, but it was almost had the opportunity to go visit the Rock for myself, and I was very much looking forward to that.
It was a beautiful racetrack, and it's one of those gems. It's been around for a long time in NASCAR competition and is one of those tracks, much like North Wilkesboro, that's starting to get a revitalization. The North Carolina government giving, $10 million to multiple racing venues across the state, including the Rock itself, which they're planning to host music festivals and, of course, marquee racing events, and they're probably wishing to have NASCAR back on the schedule. It is a beautiful track and one that is pretty hard to drive in real life and in the sim. It's one of the great things about iRacing is that we get to live with these tracks for as long as possible. They'll live forever on the virtual world. Tracks like Chicagoland that we saw last week, tracks like Myrtle Beach, which unfortunately is no longer here and has been demolished. Rockingham lives on, and it returns in stellar fashion to the 4-Wide Racing TJ's Team Series tonight. Bigger implications with the playoffs in mind. So it'll be Eric Schaefer, the driver of the 3, third in the playoffs after Chicagoland, with Jaden Porter, the defending champ, on his outside, ready to bring us out of turn 4 for the first green flag from Rockingham in 2 seasons. We're underway from the Rock in playoff style. And a big spin
we got a
already.
crash already.
Tyler Murray is around, and multiple cars face the inside wall. Caution flag is
One
out
on its side,
immediately.
one on its
Curtis
side.
Kelly is on his side as he travels down the hill. It was wheel spin on the opening jump, and there's Curtis Kelly stranded on 2 wheels.
Someone missed the shift as well, Kenneth. There was a car just wiggling well as they got up to speed, and that stacked the entire outside lane up, and it was everybody. It was from the leader all the way back through the field. Certainly, these guys were not ready to take the green flag, so let's get a replay here. This is the green flag, so you see most of the front of the field does nice. You see Alishire kind of wiggling a bit, but it looks like that 36 has an issue. I think that's when he tried to go to 4th gear. Can you see how many cars just get involved in this? I think he had an issue going up into 4th gear. Possibly it went to 2nd instead, if we could ride on board and listen for ourselves and see that was the case, but possibly went up to 2nd. And that did it for him, and around he goes in the middle of the field. So riding on board here with the Buc-ee's machine as we're getting ready to take the green flag. There he goes. Not sure.
The car just boggles down and slows immediately. Kevin DeLeo with a monumental hit. Curtis Kelly and 2 of the Skybox Toyota Supras already significantly involved, and many of those at the back of the field really didn't have an option. They were either in it or not. We'll look on board with Lance Hill, driver of the number 1 for Stonks Motorsports. This is his view from further back in the field. That Buc-ee's machine is about 3 or so rows up on the outside lane, checks up, and everybody travels down the track.
See how I got hit from behind. That's how he got involved. And he's able to come to rest, and no real damage on his race car, which is fortunate because he was involved in an early incident as well. The first caution at Chicagoland, no real damage on his race car. But let's see what happens to Curtis Kelly here and how his car ended up on its 2 tires. Certainly not the move he wanted to try and replicate from Lightning McQueen, but there you see he stays up on the outside, and Christopher Bishop, and he hits right on that opening of the safer barrier just as it's about to stick out. And wow, that car managed to stay perfectly still. Even when it got off the banking, it didn't roll over. Just happened to stay on its side, and unfortunately for him, because of that, he'll have to tow just automatically.
Here's Ryan Pandicio, the 3rd Skybox driver involved. He's one of those guys involved in the playoff run this season as a rookie. Fortunately gets away with minimal damage. Michael Newbraw there to slow down. Patrick Thompson, Brandon Banks among the blue bannered playoff drivers that were either involved in this accident directly or were near it close enough to have a scare. And there's Ryan Pandicio taking his number 63 on the apron in 3 and 4. We should expect him to hit pit road alongside everyone else. So that is going to be a huge blow dealt to many of those at the back of the field. Kevin DeLeo has taken it behind the wall. Looks like his night is over from the Rock. Curtis Kelly has found himself 3 laps down. And there he is, towed it onto pit road with no assistance. And I don't believe got back on all 4 tires, so is going to have to spend all the time towing and, of course, all the time repairing his race car. Tyler Murray in the 36, the driver who basically started the entire checkup after missing a shift, he enters pit road. And Francisco, after Chicagoland, which took a lot of drivers by surprise and many on the horn after dealing with a very abrasive and hot racing surface, to be involved on a crash before you can even complete lap number 1 is devastating to a championship pursuit.
It is. They didn't even make it to turn 1 before the incident started. But that was odd, Kenneth. I couldn't exactly hear well. It didn't sound like it went to 2nd. Just like an issue just happened there, and I'm not quite sure what to make of it. And Tyler Murray just around he went in front of the field. And when you're on a restart like that, if you go around like that, you're going to collect multiple cars. There's no real space for them to be able to go anywhere. We'll get another look at it just before we take the green flag. We're on board with the 36. Let's try and listen to see what happens.
I don't know.
Not sure.
It looks
I
odd
don't know.
because the revs seem in order. They jump a little bit,
Right.
but it doesn't seem like it completely dies. You do often see a
Yes.
misshift be represented by the revs
can hear it.
skyrocketing in about a second or dropping very quickly, but it seems like a very odd situation that gets Tyler Murray and a bunch of others in trouble. Green flag back in the air, our first restart. Here at lap number 6 of 200. Schaefer leads him out to turns 1 and 2. For the first time, we get it done cleanly. Porter right on the back bumper, diving to the inside while Moreno fights with Benson for third.
And I agree with what you said, though, Kenneth, that if he did miss a shift, you can hear it. You sometimes heard these race cars when they go from third to first or fourth to second, they go whew, and they really sound terrible. It's just not a good sound you want to hear in a race car, and that's not what we heard there. So Tyler Murray, not sure what happened there on the start of the race, but it unfortunately caused a big pileup. And now Eric Schaefer continues to lead this race now as we've gotten 2 green flag laps on our belt. The 2 teammates are battling for second place with, looks like, the 21 able to take that spot away from Jaden Porter. Kyle Benson following suit just behind. And these guys are trying to see if they can close the gap on Eric Schaefer. Remember, your point leader at the moment is Lawson Peel. He's worked his way up and inside the top 10. There you see him a little bit further back. That appears to be in the 9th position, just behind AJ Green.
Working nicely inside the top 10 as we've got a side-by-side battle. This is going to be for 5th. Out of turn 4, Craig Lautenslager in the 13, playing a bit of defense against the Season 3 winner here at Rockingham Speedway, Colin Forrester. Knows a thing or two about getting to victory lane at this track, although it's been quite a while. Falls back on the position, so we're going to remain single file. But you're right, Lawson Peel has moved nicely into 8th, has not made any progress since, but of course, you'd anticipate over the long run Lawson Peel to be able to track these drivers down. And speaking of tracking down, this 21 car is hot on the heels of the 3 of Schaefer.
And not too long ago, Kenneth, he ran a league race here. I believe it was in the Auto Racing Connected series. It was at Rockingham, and he was pretty fast in that race. The race ended early due to darkness, but he was pretty fast in that race, able to come away with the checkered flag. Look for him to be competitive here today.
Oh, we won't see any of this race be shortened due to darkness. It's a beautiful day in the afternoon here in Sim, but you're right, Moreno is quick here. But of course, you've got a driver who knows about short track racing at its finest. Eric Schaefer, basically short track racing is when he's at his best hour. And the 3 car pulls away at the entrance of turn 3 to complete lap number 11. So far, distance is pretty even between the top 3. It's all KBueno Racing second and third. Drinking Bros Racing continuing to command the cause. Now for the rookie drivers, of course, Moreno, one of them in the number 21 machine. He's one of the 5 rookies in the playoffs this season, alongside Trevor Haley, Ryan Pandicio, Patrick Thompson, and what was going to be Luke Knupp. So make it about 4 rookie drivers that have made the playoffs this season. Moreno already sending a dent into all the veterans' perspectives of running for a championship, running highly in second right now. Forrester dives it in on Benson, gets
around,
the
he goes.
48 involved. 2 teammates collide in turn 1.
And that was right in front of championship leader Lawson Peel.
And he gets away scot-free.
And you can see that coming from a mile away, Kenneth. That 99 went pretty deep into the corner. The back end started sticking out, and he did a good job of keeping it under control. But AJ Green just couldn't stay off of him, just had nowhere else to go, and around goes the 99. So here we are seeing it again the way we saw it live. Goes into the corner hot, gets into the 38. He's doing a pretty decent job of not immediately going around, but the 48 just has nowhere to go and finishes him off.
And he's already sliding too. We'll look on board with the 12 of Lawson Peel. So here's his perspective right behind the action. It appeared, though, Francisco, maybe a misaligned judgment of where the lines were going to be. I don't know what you see here. Here's Peel getting away from all of it. Barely hopped on the brakes in enough time and almost got ricocheted back up the racetrack as the 99 of Forrester was completely spinning sideways. But what goes through your mind there as a driver when you're looking into the lane and you're Colin Forrester going underneath Kyle Benson? Is that just a mistake on the entry of the corner and the car just weight shifting out of control?
I think that was the case because compared to most tracks, this track is very bumpy on the front straightaway. The lower you go on the front straightaway, the more bumpy it is. So when you hop on the brakes like that with the car jumping the way it does, it really sends the aerodynamics of the race car into a whirlpool, and around goes the rear end of the race car. These cars, ever since they edited the right side of the cars and made them flatter, they jump out a lot more on corner entry at most racetracks, and this is just a byproduct of it. Steps on the brakes, probably running low brake bias anyway, but certainly the aero conditions when you're going 160, 170 miles per hour going into turn 1, it is not going to be very useful when you slam on the brakes with a bumpy racetrack and trying to aggressively turn and stay away from the car on the outside.
Well, already, Francisco, we have fully beaten the caution total from the last time we were here back in Season 4. You want to guess how many yellows we had back in 2022, last time we were racing at the Rock?
Well, this was number 2, so I'm going to guess 1.
It's 1, yeah.
Yes.
Just 1 for 4 laps. That was the only caution we had all day long in the sim in early July. So already 2 yellows early in the first 15. So this opening bracket of tonight's race from the Rock marred by yellow flags. The Stonks Motorsports teammates collecting each other, and as a result, they are going to fall back, but not by much. Green is going to stay in P6. Meanwhile, Colin Forrester, Season 3 winner here, is going to drop all the way back to what's going to be 11th on the track. And for, of course, AJ Green in the 48, this is probably not the situation you want to be faced with early, especially when it concerns a teammate, because Green was the only Stonks Motorsports driver to make it through to the playoffs. Colin Forrester had a pretty big gap going into the late stage of the regular season, could not convert to get himself a playoff spot, nor could grab a race win in enough time, while AJ Green was able to make it on enough points and through the consistency alone. Talk about Chicagoland, where he finished worst out of all the playoff drivers and is 35 points back of your standings leader, Lawson Peel, who sits behind him right now. Green really doesn't want an insult to injury fresh off the start of Rockingham tonight.
You're right about that. He's got tonight and 7 more races to try and make up for it, and he has to start here right now. You saw 35 points behind the man behind him on the racetrack, Lawson Peel, so he has to finish consistently and definitely a lot of positions ahead of that 12 car to make any inroads, and that's just on him. Never mind the other guys that are trying to, of course, battle on the racetrack and get the points lead for themselves. So it's just a big hole you place yourself in, but you have to consistently perform and try to stay out of trouble to give yourself an opportunity in the closing rounds. That's why every position is going to be very important in these playoffs. I mean, we can't state it just how important it is, Kenneth. I mean, I've been telling you this off camera. I've recently been watching a lot more of the era that I grew up watching NASCAR and just watching all those races, and most recently I watched the 2011 championship race. I don't have to go into any detail or any context of that race and that season for any viewer of ours to understand just exactly what I'm referring to.
Well, but for those who haven't watched it, that's your homework after tonight's race. Go watch the 2011 finale, and if you don't get the context,
we won't tell you.
Read the context. We won't tell you. It's an all-time classic. Out of turn 4, second restart of the night at lap 18 of 200. Schaefer has led the way all the way through. Green flag back in the air in the chase to turn 1. Schaefer out and ahead quickly. Benson on the outside for the fight, which is going to be for second place on the outside of Moreno, who clears entering 1 and 2. Schaefer pulls away quite clearly. We're back under green.
Looks like that inside's going to struggle for any momentum, especially if you're not the leader. That 3 car's always going to have the advantage for the top spot, but look at Ethan Fonseca Moreno with a very strong 3 and 4, got right up to the back of Eric Schaefer. We'll see what he can do in the next couple of corners to try and mount a chance for lead. He's going to go to the outside, he's going to climb the banking here, he's going to lose a little bit of time, but he's going to try and use that to get a run down the back straightaway. We saw just how much time he lost in doing so. So, a car on the wall, back end of the field. Not sure exactly who that is, but they're able to keep it straight. We stare at the green flag.
After the 17 of Craig Parks, who slapped the outside wall, it was Scott Healy who moved out the way right behind him. But you're right, Moreno is trying alternative lines to get the runs out of the corner. Instead dives to the bottom here in the middle of 1 and 2. Benson whipping himself all the way to the top side of the racetrack and arcing it down. And this is one of those select tracks that even before the oval refresh, this speedway has a lot of multi-groove availability. You can run multiple lines and make it work. Oftentimes in our previous broadcasts here at the Rock, you'll see a lot of the leaders and the top drivers run the middle, slide up to the corner, or run the very top. It all just depends on your style and, of course, how you want to move with the field and how exactly do you want to use the set of Goodyear Eagles you have underneath you. And plus the oval refresh that was added several months ago on the iRacing service, you have a track where you can use multiple lanes, as each of the lanes that's supposed to be used gets slick. So we'll see a lot of drivers experimenting over the course of the race.
I mean, the best way I could explain it is that even before the oval racing refresh, it's very hard to hold a single line around here. because of the way the corner is. They're so bumpy, it changes so much when you actually are sitting in the car and you're able to see it for yourself. It's very hard to hold a single line. There's a general line, but there's no actual specific line. Like if you go to 1.5 miles and you put that left front right on a paint or something, or put the right side against the wall. No, we don't have that at this racetrack. So it's very fluid, and you just kind of put it in a certain spot and do it a certain way, and that's the line, and that's what we have here. So I think that's why Oval Racing Refresh, we're able to see so many different lines here, and I'm only interested to seeing just how the refresh is able to affect it.
And also, too, with the bumpy surface, you've really got to wrestle this race car. So certain lines make it easier than others. As you ride on board with the 13 of Craig Lautenslager, one of the Mervedy Motorsports drivers in the playoffs, 7th in the standings, fresh out of Chicagoland last Wednesday. And the last time we were here, he finished inside the top 5. He's one of 4 current playoff drivers that finished in the top 5 the last time we were here, and the others included in that list are Lawson Field, Jaden Porter, and Brandon Banks. So Lautenslager, who finished 2nd in Season 4 at the Rock, looking for a lot of
around goes the 1.
Around goes the 1 of Lance Hill for a quick spin in 1 and 2. Yellow is out for the 3rd time tonight.
I was watching that just as on the top of the screen going down the front straightaway. He put on a squeeze in front of Austin Reedy, trying to, when he was battling the 12 car, put on a big squeeze, and unfortunately, looks like he's coming up here. And I think it might not have been the 34. It looks like looks like he's upset at the 4 of Trevor Haley. It was a white front end car, so it might not have been Austin Reedy, but certainly he was battling the 12 car, and exactly, it is Trevor Haley. Puts on a squeeze right there. Contact going down the front straightaway, and it looks like no real contact, not yet. And then right there in the center of the corner, the 4 car gets into the back of the 1, but fortunately for Lance Hill, does not get hit by anyone or anything. Doesn't really even go around, so the caution flag comes out for that, but I think you can kind of tell what exactly happened.
This is a look from Brandon Banks, several cars behind. So Haley's going to slap him in the middle of the corner, give him that tap. Well, second time Colin Forrester is in scary trouble, and Brandon Banks has had to avoid already a lot tonight, and this is adding to the list. The one going sideways, but fortunately, like you said, Hill not really getting that much damage on his Chevrolet Camaro. So he'll keep this one collected. Just a bit of front-end nose damage, but that really wasn't even from the contact that ensued several moments ago. He's going to drop to 12th place as we're already under our 3rd yellow here, lap number 27 of 200. Do we expect to see this many yellows early? Feels a little odd for a series that has mostly, over the last couple of races, gone green flag racing. Chicagoland, we saw some yellows, but we did get certainly spoiled with a lot of long green flag activity. Tonight, 27 laps, 3 yellows, most of our event run under caution.
But I think this will eventually start to whittle out, and we'll get eventual green flag racing under our belt. That first lap was definitely a freak accident, but I feel like those last 2 incidents are stuff that we can avoid, that once these guys get a couple laps under their belt and get into the rhythm, it should be, probably won't be seeing much of that, especially if we get spread out. So I think it'll take a couple laps, but eventually we'll see it. Now, all these caution laps are certainly helping these guys with their pit strategy, in the sense that none of the main leaders have decided to come down pit road yet for tires. It is a long one out here, 200 laps. I'm not sure how many sets they do have at their disposal, but certainly want to keep as many as possible, especially if we do get these cautions, because when you put them on is going to matter more than whether you put them on or not.
For sure. You're looking at fresh tire advantage, a big one here at a track this abrasive, a track this dire to the tires, and usually screaming for grip by the end of a run. Chicagoland was the same way, right? We saw a lot of the strategy mix and match, just depending on, number one, how the yellows came out when they did, but number two, of course, the situation behind the wheel, whether you ran the inside, middle, or outside, how you treated the set of tires you had underneath you, and really how that affected when you came down to pit road. And that's sort of what enabled Scott Healy to get back into the fight and be able to beat Brandon Hawken. Usually came down to fresh rubber. And of course, having one of the best cars on the racetrack late, but that's an entirely different story. So lights are off from the iRacing official pace car, ready to get another restart down here at lap 30 of 200. Schaefer has commanded all 29 runs so far tonight. Moreno has kept a close second. Kyle Benson, Jaden Porter, and Adam Alishire, actually AJ Green, going to complete the top 5. How about the 2 Supras in Alashire and Green making moves early? Those are 2 drivers near the bottom half of the playoff standings field. Alashire back in 10th, 26 points away from the standings leader in Lawson Field, who sits coincidentally right behind the 91 as we're doubled up and ready for green flag action. It was mostly a single car incident to bring out our most recent yellow involving Lance Hill. We're ready to get things back underway here from Rockingham, North Carolina. And of course, we're glad that you're joining us here on the KBueno Racing Network, our second race of the Season 6 4-Wide Racing TJ's Team Series playoffs. Chevrolets lining the front row. Schaefer, Moreno, off turn 4, pace cars down, we're back to green.
Well, we're going to see that outside once again. Should be the advantage, especially for the driver leading the race. Fonseca's going to try to hold it on the bottom, but that 3 car should get a run off the turn 2 here to clear for the top spot. They'll settle into second as a car gets into the wall. It looks to be the 4 of Trevor Haley, bounced off into another race car. There's a car around further in the back. As they scramble for turn 3, cars are on the apron, and there's the caution.
And it's Michael Newbraw, the playoff driver involved. Smoke billowing from the back end of the Camaro. That might be his race toasted 31 laps through.
Yeah, that's pretty big damage. It's pretty automatic when you see that smoke coming out the car, Kenneth. It's at least 30 minutes of required repairs, and obviously that does you in for the race, especially if they get green flag runs. Let's see what happens here. It started further up the field. It looks like with Lauenslager and the 4 of Trevor Haley off of turn 2, I think Haley might have gotten squeezed out into the wall. There you see what happened to Newbraw, but I don't know if that trickled its way all the way back to the 6 car, but certainly that's where the first bit of contact on this restart happened. So here's the 13, just got passed by Lawson Field, gets tight off the corner, never hit the 4 car, but the 4 car certainly ends up into the wall, and it looks like the 1 gets into the back of the 4. Remember, those 2 had contact before that, and the 4 gets into the outside wall and pretty heavy damage on the right side of his race car.
It's been a nightmare early for the rookie Trevor Haley, involved in that first accident with Lance Hill, and then this second one as he slaps the wall, careens down the racetrack, hip checks the 99, and Hill just sends him right to the top side of the racetrack and into the outside wall. Not enough to deal him over, but it looks like the hand for Michael Newbraw was one that was enough to take care of all the money he had put into bet. Michael Newbraw coming in out of turn 2, fighting with Ryan Pandicio, and it's going to be the main native of Wyatt Bracken who just steps in and gives him a small tap of Francisco. That is enough at this momentum to send Newbraw that far head on into the wall.
But the Newbraw check up. I think he saw what was going on and might have checked up, and I think the 10 car might not have checked up. So let's go on board and listen. Yeah.
All silence. That's him hitting the brakes.
Yes.
We'll see if we can get another look from Wyatt Bracken in the 10, who sits 15th right now, but this is him entering 1 and 2 right behind the 6 car. Hey, listen in. I mean, he checks up, but Francisco, I don't think they checked up at around the same time, nor at the same intensity, so you're looking at just a mismatch in the types of slowing down, and unfortunately, it just gets the 6 car, and the 10 sends him on the back bumper, and that's more than enough to send Newbraw around for the spin. And since there are no fast repairs here in the 4-Wide Racing TJ's Team Series, Michael Newbraw is going to have to pull this one behind the wall and call tonight over.
And unfortunate for him, really, but there's nothing that the 10 could have done there. When you're, if you've been on the sim or you've driven a race car, when you're right behind somebody like that, you can't see in front of them. You can't see what's going on. So I think maybe the spotter or maybe saw the smoke, couldn't see to what extent it was, maybe thought someone got into the wall. The 6 definitely had a better view of it, and that's why he braked. But obviously the 10 didn't know to the same extent, being tucked up right behind him. And that's why that happens. You can't really place a blame on a driver. The 6 is doing what he feels like he should do, which is check up for a potential crash. The 10 does not see it. He has a race car directly in front of him. So it's an unfortunate set of circumstances for both drivers, and you hate it for Michael Newbraw there. But I mean, that just happens, Kenneth. It's a normal deal. You hate to be a part of it, but it certainly happens from time to time. Now, very interestingly, the 21 and all that did come out the race leader, I believe, or might not have, but he certainly was leading under the pace laps. So I'm curious to see if he even got the lead during that restart.
He did. Timing and scoring secured the lead for Ethan Fonseca Moreno. So for the first time tonight, we are really going to have a lead change.
And
It's
he went
going
to
to
the
be
bottom.
under yellow. Moreno will have control on this next restart. Comes our way lap 35 of the 200 scheduled. Jaden Porter, the KBueno Racing teammate, even better, going to be on the inside behind the 21. Both of them can launch ahead of Schaefer entering the first corner. Pace car pivots to the left. Back to green from the rock. We've had a lot of yellows early. Moreno to lead us through for the first lead change of the night to turn 1.
And much like we've seen with DBR, I fully expected the 21 to give the 28 a signal to go with being directly behind him and being able to launch that way in contact with Eric Schaefer off of turn 2.
Porter getting loose, dives it down low. He loses about almost 2 spots. Benson to move through. AJ Green to fight for it on the outside. Porter holds his ground for now. Moreno leads him back to the strike in lap number 35. Schaefer trying to catch up. First time we've seen him in dirty air.
And we'll see just how he manages. We'll see how much the tires start to play a role. Because remember, they've been under caution the whole time for the most of this race so far. So the tires haven't exactly worn out in terms of their life expectancy. But they certainly have worn a little bit in terms of the speed. They're certainly not running the same lap times they did on that first opening green flag run that we were able to have. So it is playing a role. And we're about to see just how much at this stage in their wear do certain guys perform a little bit better, have a little bit more speed at their disposal to get around this racetrack a lot better. There you see the 12 car of Lawson Field. He's slightly moved up. He's just outside the top 5, trying to see if he can find his way in it with Lance Hill on some slightly fresher tires there behind him.
Lounsloger and Peel going to be 7th up for auction here into turn 1. Peel, of course, the defending winner here at Rockingham Speedway. And while he didn't lead the most laps, that credit goes to his teammate, Jesse Preece, who unfortunately isn't here tonight. Led 103 of the 167 laps. Peel commanded the last sector of the race to get what was, at the time, his 6th W of the season. Peel working into 8th right now and diving deep into turn 1 on Lounsloger's number 13. It goes high, the Proco car stays above. Down the Thunder Alley in the back straightaway, at least for a momentary moment, as Moreno holds on to the lead by about 0.3 of a second over Schaefer. And how about this, Francisco? They have pulled the gap to 3rd place. Kyle Benson is about to the tune of half a second when you transfer from the Schaefer car in 2nd to Benson's car in 3rd. Then you've got the pack building behind Jaden Porter. The top 2 call that a runaway here at lap 40.
Let's see how this shakes out if we get a long enough run to see just how much more they spread. I see Benson's running the outside lane, get all the way up next to the wall in 3 and 4, trying to see if he can make those straightaways a lot longer and a lot faster for himself. And you see just how early these guys have to get on the brakes. They're carrying so much speed. There's so much banking, but you have to get the car slowed down. And look how early they're able to pick up the throttle, going 140, exiting these corners. And as they put the brakes on here for turn 3, you see just about 160 miles an hour on board with Adam Alishire. And he's riding behind these guys, so it could be a lot better, especially as we're deep into this run. If you have fresh tires, it's probably a lot faster. You see 163 momentarily going back to turn 1. So it's a short track, Kenneth, but it's very fast.
And also, too, you've got 2 different ends of the speedway on tap. These banked corners are around 22 to 25 degrees from the inside to the outside. But in 1 and 2, you're looking at a sharper radius. It's a lot slower than 3 and 4. You have to roll up way more to the entrance of the first corner, and that's why you see fresh off of the rock sign on the outside of the racetrack painted in red. You'll see the drivers make that as a marker to brake soon for the entrance of the corner. Meanwhile, 3 and 4, a little bit wider on the arc, plus the banking helps you carry a lot more speed entering 3 and 4. And here's the fight for 4th building up. Jaden Porter trying to defend. AJ Green looking to break down the barrier.
Kyle Benson got a little bit of the wall there off of turn 4, but no harm, no foul for him. And you see Green almost gets into the left rear of the 28 in a similar way as his teammate Colin Forster did to himself earlier in this run, just really being aggressive on that inside. And you're going to have to be careful running that bottom on the inside of somebody, Kenneth. It's very bumpy down there. We've already seen a car or 2 step out from under them, trying to move to the inside. And speaking of, and there's the slow Christopher Bishop that gets in the way of this battle momentarily as he's got significant damage on his race car. But Alishire looked to try and get to the bottom of AJ Green for turn 1. And now AJ Green is able to clear the 91, and he's trying to continue to battle the 28.
Green holding back. AJ finished 23rd after starting 10th at Chicagoland Speedway. Really did not pan out the way he anticipated it. So tonight, it's really all about the comeback, how you respond here at Rockingham before you head over to the short track in Richmond, and then of course further throughout the playoffs. And the last time we were here, AJ Green finished inside the top 10. Now, give or take, it was a 16-car race, so it wasn't exactly the largest field by any stretch of the imagination, but for Green, a 9th place finish was still considerably nice, especially with a track this hard to drive and with a next-gen car that really doesn't like to be all that much sideways. Green still planning his move on the 28 of Jaden Porter. Meanwhile, Moreno has had a mirror full of Eric Schaefer over the last several laps. When does Schaefer make this move?
And it's going to depend on what line he'll have when he gets side by side with the driver of the 21. If he has the bottom, it's not going to be an easy pass. We've seen passing on the inside be a premium, especially when it's for the lead of the race. But soon enough, he might have to consider that 38 car, who's making some pretty decent lap time the last couple laps, has pulled away from Jaden Porter, is closing in on the back of that 3 car. But either way, Kenneth, this is exactly the kind of race, at least through the first 50 laps, that both Ethan and Eric want to have. They have Lawson Field back in the 8th spot, and both of them are running 1-2, so this is really going to help their championship odds, at least how it currently runs here on lap 49 of the race.
You're right, Kyle Benson has been logging in faster laps, and while he equalized with the top 2 for the last run to the stripe, he was almost a 10th faster than the race leader. Put up a 25.307, last time by a 25.417, which was 0.02 of a second slower than Moreno's 25.415. So instead of a 2-car breakaway, make this a 3-car stretch that goes all the way back to the 28s, as we've got some contact in the back of the field. AJ Green was shot out of line and plummets to 8th place.
Yeah, you could hear something happen. I'm not sure where it was that occurred, whether it was in front of the leaders, but I certainly heard some kind of contact as if a car got significant damage. So here we are. He was right behind Jaden Porter, as he had been for the last couple laps, and gets into the wall and kind of goes up sideways, is able to go straight through the grass. But you hear right there something almost like an engine exploding, Kenneth. That might have come from the pit lane.
Could have. Might have been a driver on track 2 to slap the outside wall, but AJ Green is going to have to deal with damage on the right side of his Toyota Supra, and in turn going to drop to 8, so has to theoretically reset here in the battle for what's going to be 6 right in front of them, almost 3 wide. Alashire taps the outside wall, entering 1, Peel in the middle.
Slow car.
Tony Kimmett, the lap car, in the middle,
Peel on the
getting
wall.
split. Peel and Lounslauger got away with it closely.
That was a close one for Lounslauger and Peel, who got the wall off into the back straightaway, but he should be fine. And it somehow gains him a spot in the end of it, so that was a very close call with the lapper.
Boy, the light flashes right before your eyes in a moment like that. And for Lawson Peel, he was basically staring down his playoff advantage being torn away from him, but he holds on to it. So does everyone else. Peel jumps to 5th after getting by Adam Alashire on the back straightaway entering turn 3. This is your top 3. Schaefer brushes the wall, and here's Benson, the run for P2.
Contact. There was contact between those two, and Benson's going to end up sliding up the track.
3 did not want to give that one up easily, and Benson slides by in the 38 car. Does Schaefer respond? And at lap 54, we know we had a lot of yellows to start this one, Francisco, but the tires are wearing for sure. You run down to the inside so strongly, you can easily move up to the outside wall, and that's about the 2nd occasion between Green and Schaefer to which top runners have struck that outside safer barrier, specifically out of 4.
Yeah, I thought turn 2 would be the challenge spot, but tonight, so far, it's been turn 4.
Up for grabs is 6th place. Alashire on the outside, Green down low, looking to recover position. Alashire, who finished top 15 in that realm at Chicagoland last week, wasn't the best outing for the Daytona winner from earlier this season, but certainly one that he could at least have some high hopes for the rest of the playoffs for. He's caught in now a 4-car fight for this spot. The 13 of Lounslauger down low, Murray Reedy Motorsports teammate Austin Reedy right behind, and then a pair of playoff competitors, Ryan Pandicio and Brandon Banks. It is getting clustered around the back half of the top 10.
certainly a train forming here around these Stonks Motorsports cars, as there's some guys that had pitted under the cautions and they have slightly fresher tires, but because of the caution laps, it's not as big of a starking difference as you might expect. Their advantage is going to be in the fuel game, and we'll see that play out if we get a long enough into this run. But Austin Reedy, certainly one of those guys that has slightly newer tires, and he's trying to put that to use.
And one of those that's not running for the playoffs this season, a guy that we certainly expected to be one of those championship competitors as he swashes down the inside of Lounslager heading in a turn one. He'll slide way up the hill, and he'll give back the spot to Lounslager at least for a second before fighting back at the exit of 2. Austin Reedy was one of those that struggled at the jump of the season along with the rest of Murray Reedy Motorsports, picked it up midway through the campaign, and then built up a run that could have been contentious enough for a playoff spot. Unfortunately, didn't see himself grab a checkered flag throughout the 2024 season, and then, of course, missed out on points entirely. So Reedy is one of those, Francisco, what-if drivers to make the playoffs this season. While he isn't running for the ultimate prize of the trophy at season's end, he's still running for wins nonetheless, and we know how quickly Austin Reedy can acclimate to certain conditions. Reedy pretty fast here tonight and up to 7th, fighting with Alashire.
Trying to see if he can get past the Stonks Motorsports duo. And up front, Kyle Benson's now just a handful of car lengths behind your race leader, trying to see if he can close the gap. You see he's gotten closer and he's working that outside, Kenneth, and he's been able to get really good runs off the corner. So watch this. He's going to get a huge run off the corner. He's going to have a chance going into turn 1.
Into turn 1, Benson backs out though, doesn't unleash the full move on Moreno, and even more so, Moreno's going to slide up and give him the dirty air. So at this point, Moreno is playing a little bit of defense at this point. Does Benson alterate his line entering 3 and 4? The answer is going to be hell no. He's going to go all the way to the top, and Moreno is going to respond with a move up there. And it's sort of interesting seeing the line that Benson is utilizing. Gets another monumental run out of turn 4, by the way. Back to turn 1. He's running the very top and sliding up the racetrack, making sure the car can just float up before arcing it back down, and it's helped him utilize a lot more throttle and save his tires over this run, hence to how close he is to the race leader despite not being able to make a move yet.
Yeah, you can see contrary to 21, he gets a lot higher and a lot earlier, and that really straightens out the straightaway for him, gets him these big runs. He just can't really make the move to the inside, probably doesn't want to make the move to the inside, especially in turn 1. And you see right there, diamonding these corners as the lap car is going to get out the way there. But Ethan Fonseca so far holding on and holding off the 38. Eric Schaefer has fallen off a little bit. He's getting caught by Jaden Porter ever so slightly for that 3rd position. But the top 2 are 2 seconds clear of that.
And we'll anticipate some green flag pit stops soon. We'll see what those top 2 do, whether they pull the trigger quite early or whether they're going to strike onto pit road much later. Here is the fight for what's going to be 7th online. AJ Green, Craig Lounslager, 2 of the playoff drivers going at it. And how about Brandon Banks back there in 9th place from the 54 machine, and of course had to escape a lot of the calamity from the first 40 laps tonight. Several close calls, including lap 1 and then our most recent yellow off of turn 2. But Brandon Banks, we know him as Mr. Consistency, able to run well so far, 65 laps into this race, and has certainly picked up the pace. He's up tonight inside the top 10. It's Tony Kibbett once again in the middle as a lap car, and here comes Banks.
And Lounslager, last time they went around at 76, it cost him a position. It's going to cost him another one.
Banks swooping by on the top, help from Ryan Pandicio in the draft entering turn 1. Banks still in this hot fight for what's going to be 8th on the racetrack. Banks wins this one, center of the corner, coming out of the 2nd corner. Banks has got it. So give 8th place to Brandon Banks, and now a fight for 9th. Pandicio going forward on Lounslager.
He's going to get that run off the corner. He's going to get real close to the 13, but he has the position.
And these are drivers on a bit of a tire difference. Pandicio, of course, 4 laps better than the competitors in front of him, but nonetheless, I think that Tony Kibbett situation, Francisco, really slowed a lot of drivers down. It's that sense of cautiousness that you have as a playoff runner. You know that a slower car is ahead of you. You don't really know where they're going to go, specifically Tony Kibbett. He's been all around the place, specifically out of turn 2. Your job is to get around them, but all of a sudden, you've got everybody hot on your heels if you slow down just a bit or make a mistake. Look at Banks sending it into 1. Green's going to have the advantage, and we are door to door down to Thunder Alley.
And Austin Reedy has moved up into the 6th position, and he's slowly catching the 12th car of Lawson Peel as the 91 sends it into the corner. He's going to get sideways, got into the back of the 54 for a second. 54-48 stay side by side, but Alishire is going to lose momentum, and there's Lowenslugger just behind him.
And also, too, for Alishire, he pitted 3 laps ago. He's one of those first to take an effort for pit road. He's down to 21st and 2 laps down from your leaders. Alishire, if you remember correctly, he was inside the top 10 and sort of fluctuating between gaining and losing ground, but he's one of the first takers to pit road. Such an interesting call by Alishire. I'm not sure if it was out of necessity or out of just separating himself from everyone else on the pit road run, but Alishire is going to try to unlap himself here as of lap number 70. We got more takers on pit road, make that Tyler Murray and Lance Hill in this time. Or rather, just Lance Hill.
They're going low on fuel, and green flag pit stops, I guess they're going to be approaching here very soon, as now Forrester makes his way into the lane. I didn't know exactly what the fuel window was going to be for tonight, but here we go. Guys, got guys in the lane. Remember, some guys pitted under the caution flag, and they got some extra fuel, so not everybody in the field is going to be coming down pit road in the next couple laps.
AJ Green is in, making that the full Stonks Motorsports completion of drivers to come down pit road. And because Green is in, we should expect most of the other leaders to also consider coming down pit road. Fight for third, Jaden Porter getting the best of Eric Schaefer, and you were right, Francisco. Porter was tracking this 3-car down. Schaefer has pretty much fallen off on his set of Goodyear Eagles. This might be the calling card for him to come down pit road as he enters inside in 3 and 4. There it is. Hop on the brakes. Eric Schaefer is in.
Sounds like he heard you, because as soon as you said it, he makes that left turn into the pit lane. All is good there on that entry. You have to remember, Kenneth, that 3-car, he's had a couple of issues speeding on pit road the last 2 race weekends. Doesn't want to make it a 3rd consecutive one, and this time it could hurt him. Last weekend he was able to recover. At a track like this, might not be the case.
You can't really get the saving grace, especially when you fall 2 laps down to the leaders when you come down instead of just 1 lap down like we had at Chicagoland. Moreno still outside on the Hotbird seat. Kyle Benson right behind. Jaden Porter has moved his way up to 3rd like we saw him against Eric Schaefer. Another taker down pit road. This time it is going to be Craig Lowenslugger out of Murray Reedy Motorsports. So Lowenslugger out of Euless, Texas comes in. Craig Parks, the rookie, coming out. He entered the previous lap. So this is where everyone's striking down, Francisco, and if you're the leaders, you have a ton of separation at this juncture of the race. Now when is your marker to come in? Jaden Porter in at lap 74, and I think the leaders just answered my question. There they are in as well.
They went at the lap 75 mark, so at least I think that's their guide from now to the end of the race. The top 3 coming in all together. So let's see what happens here. They go into their stall, and both of them got in very cleanly, so we'll see exactly. It should be 4 tires and fuel for everybody to set them off for another 70 or so laps. And there you see Lawson Peel had a shaky entry. Not sure just how aggressive he was getting into the lane. Shirley was aggressive, just not sure if it overstepped the boundary or not. Leads a lap. Austin Reedy now is going to be the leader of the race. We know he can go a couple extra laps on fuel because he stayed out, or rather pitted under one of those cautions and has some extra fuel. And there you see your top 2 able to get away pretty decently. But it looks like the 28 of Porter's going to lose some time to the duo. He's still... no.
Well, there's Banks and Lawson Peel going to be 6th and 7th. They come out of the pit lane this time by. Austin Reedy, the former race leader, is in, leaving Patrick Thompson as one of those to stay out. One of the rookie drivers in the 4Wide Racing TJ's Team Series playoffs. He runs 8th in standings out of Chicagoland, a driver who's been able to capture multiple top 3s, including close calls to the race win. Thompson is going to stay out as long as possible. He pitted 46 laps ago, though, so Francisco, it's going to be quite a while before we see him enter the lane. Him and Scott Healy, the last 2 to cycle out. But how interesting would this be for Thompson, who's on a fully alternative strategy? We've seen it before out of Thompson, and now he's going to take it the long way around this time.
So, if I had to judge this right, Kenneth, he can go approximately another 30 laps, which would put it close to the lap 110 mark. That is going to be short of being able to make it on one more pit stop. but I certainly think that at some point that when he's out on this strategy that he's leading the race, he's probably going to be hoping for a caution flag long enough into the run so that everybody comes back into the pit lane just with him as the leader.
And now Thompson is going to call it quits on his run.
Oh,
He
never
opts on
mind.
the brakes and he is in, so that's going to be about 47 laps into his stint. He joins Brady Cox, who recovered from the damage taken on the first lap crash before turn 1. Cox is 8 laps down in 23rd, but Thompson pulls it in, which means Ethan Fonseca Moreno is back to the race lead, but not comfortably. Benson is right on his back bumper.
But both of them are very clear of AJ Green. That's that red dot you see a little bit further back, about 2 seconds behind, is that 48, who's pitted much earlier than most of these guys, so that's why he was able to gain the track position. Expect him, though, to fall to the clutches of Jaden Porter and Eric Schaefer soon enough. But for right now, the 48 runs in that 3rd position as the caution flag waves.
Caution flag is out on our first long green flag run of the day. And it looks like Ryan
63.
Pandiccio might have been involved. Slow entering turn 1. Are going to fully confirm if that was the case. And it was. Ryan Pandiccio lost the car out of 4. Brings us our most recent caution at lap 81. Here's a replay.
Racing with the 36, and looks like just gets tight, and around she goes. I'm surprised, though. Never mind, right there. I think, yeah, right there. I was about to say the first half looked like it might have been okay just because it was on the grass, but you saw right there when the car was sideways. On the actual racetrack, I think that's what the iRacing system determined the caution. But you see right here, he's racing the 36. They were a lap down, or close to being a lap down. And right here, 36, holding him down off the corner, 63, slides up, gets into the side, and around he goes. Almost was able to do the 360 and keep it going, but right there just slides back up and ends up on the racing surface, and that's what puts us under the yellow flag. But, damn. I think right now, if you were Patrick Thompson, you were cursing under your breath for pitting too soon.
And for Thompson, he's going to be still on the lead lap. And he's going to gain spots here, but he's going to be in the midst of the top 15. So you're right. If he had stayed out maybe an extra 2 or so laps, beautiful call. A call that had so much fortuitous insight that none of us really would have expected to go right. But unfortunately, Ryan Pandiccio goes for the spin. And got to give him credit for keeping it out of the inside wall. That car was basically head on in trajectory to the inside wall, but kept it out of harm's way. Hit the gas pedal to kick up the revs and spin the rear tires to spin the other way. Comes to a stop sideways, perpendicularly on the front straightaway. And there's Pandiccio on the right side of your screen entering pit road. So with that comes our most recent caution here at lap number 82. Ethan Fonseca Moreno leads it so far here from the Rockingham Speedway. We'll take a short moment and step aside, but you won't miss any bit of the coverage of the 4 Wide Racing TJ's Team Series playoffs from the Rock.
Racing isn't easy, but experiencing it is. iRacing puts you in the driver's seat with the industry's leading sim racing game. Drive on laser scan replicas of the greatest racing circuits from around the world. Go head-to-head against other drivers chosen by skill-based matchmaking to ensure competitive racing at every level. Compete across all your favorite series. In officially licensed cars, engineered to deliver the most accurate driving experience possible. Join a race or host your own with players from across the globe. Race against the computer or in a league with friends. Feel the thrill behind the wheel. Visit iRacing.com.
Welcome back to Rockingham Speedway. Just got a restart here on lap number 85 of 200. Our most recent caution coming out as behalf of Ryan Panicio went for a spin, exiting turn 4. Moreno leads this one with Kyle Benson, AJ Green, Eric Schaefer, and Jaden Porter behind to complete the top 5. Porter in the bout for the 5th spot alongside the season 4 champ and defending winner here at Rockingham, Lawson Peel, who runs the outside in 3 and 4. And Francisco, while we did have that yellow from Pindicio that broke up a long flag run, we saw a lot of interesting calls, and we've got a hodgepodge of different strategies on tire decisions that will certainly affect the rest of this race if we go green. But so far, ever since Moreno has taken the lead from Eric Schaefer, he has set the tone.
Absolutely, and he looks like he has one of the best cars here today. Kyle Benson on that long run was able to show up and show out. Closed up to the back of him, but wasn't able to get around the 21. So we'll see with this green flag run, with this new opportunity for Benson and the rest of the field, just exactly what is able to happen here. Well, it looks like Lawson Peel, for the first time tonight, is moved into the top 5 with the pass on Jaden Porter. We've seen the 3 car just in front of him be fast on the short runs, but as the tires wore on, he fell off towards the latter portion of that run. We'll see exactly what happens here, and if the 12th car can move up. Early on, he was running in the middle portion of the top 10, but you can't count him out, Kenneth. He's your second to last most recent champion, and he's been a champion for a reason. He has the most wins in 4-wide competition, so obviously there's a reason behind all that. And until the checker flag waves, don't count out the 12th car.
Always one of those drivers that can strike out of nowhere. Even when you count him out for the entire race, he'll find a way to either outlast every other driver on the long run or just position himself in the right way from strategy. So Peel currently runs nicely in 5th, right behind his Drinkin' Bros Racing Chevrolet teammate in Eric Schaefer, who started tonight on the pole. You're looking at AJ Green, who has bounced back and forth throughout this race, was involved in one of the cautions, including his teammate Colin Forrester, but since has rebounded to 3rd here on this restart at lap 91 and chasing down the Pennsylvania driver of Kyle Benson. Now, we had both of our yellows come early in this race up to lap 40, and our most recent coming out several laps ago with Ryan Panicio. But based on the first sector of this race to now what's going to be halfway, we had a bunch of yellows, lots of restarts, and then a long green flag run. What are the takeaways if you're one of the drivers on track, and how do you adjust properly for the second half to get a win tonight?
You have to set yourself up for long runs and for tire wear to get back, and you have to know how to navigate that. We saw the 3 car fall off on that long run. He doesn't want to be doing that every single run here tonight, because that will cost him positions. And as we've documented, all these positions are points, and he's already lost a couple from the Chicagoland race to today. Doesn't want to be doing that again, because then he'll have an even bigger gap to have to work on for Richmond.
Here's last week's winner, Scott Healy, running inside the top 11, just outside of the top 10 and defending against Craig Laumsbarger, who also has been on a backslide as of late, was inside the top 8 or so, then sort of fell back through the lap car madness, getting around the 76 of Tony Kibitz, and Healy going loose. They all checked up out of 4, and I believe that started either with Lance Hill or the car right in front of Wyatt Brackett, slowed everybody down. A close call. Almost at midway.
Yeah, you can hear when he rolled back, something definitely happened in front. Let's see what it was. And it looks like the 1 car contact, and very fortunate Lance Hill didn't end up nosing into the outside wall there. That easily could have been the case.
Here's a look out of 4 from Lance Hill's perspective. He's commanding this train of about 4 to 5 cars. Healy's going to look from the outside behind, and then you'll see just how chaotic it gets.
Oh, was never on the throttle.
And quick reflexes keeps Lance Hill alive. How many close calls have we seen Lance Hill in tonight? He's been in a lot.
It's not been a fun night for him.
He's digging through the trenches so far, that's for sure. Eric Schaefer looking on the inside of AJ Green. This is for 3rd. While Schaefer did fall back on the long run, he certainly has a lot of mid-run pace to work with. And using it to his advantage on green, will back out here entering 3 and 4, decides to just stick behind AJ Green's Drito Gang Supra. Nice run out of 4 to build with, almost made contact. As
battle
here
for the
comes
lead.
Benson, crossover out of 4 to the inside for the lead.
That's the move he wanted to make on that last run, but you saw him backing out of turns 1 and 2. He got a big enough run, was able to go to the inside early enough. Now the 21's going to battle on the outside. They almost make contact. Expect the 38 to dial one up here and send it to the inside.
How long does Moreno hold on? The answer is not for long, but he looks across the
Crossover.
38 over the same way. They almost brush together. Nose to tail Moreno for the fight back to the inside.
He's going to clear him.
Moreno gains headway. Benson fights back up top. Same crossover move,
man.
almost. Benson could have swooped down to the inside, instead backs out and looks for the run here in a 3 and 4. This is the closest we have seen these two leaders all night long. Moreno with another slow run out of 4. Building momentum is Benson. A mountainous charge, a landslide, and it turns 1 and 2.
They're racing like it's lap 199. There's still 100 laps to go.
And you're right, Francisco, you brought up a great point on Benson, looking to unleash this very move late in the last run, but just could never get close enough, could never mount the crossover nicely through to get to the inside of Moreno. But here we are, door to door for the lead. Moreno wins the fight back to the stripe across for lap 100. We're halfway home here from Rockingham. Moreno, center of the corner, momentum. Moreno still looking for the nose ahead, and Benson's loose off the corner.
I'm careful about both of these guys. They're driving very hard. They're using up their tires, but more importantly, when you get on the brakes really hard for either turns 1 or 3, and especially turn 1, you can really get the rear end sideways. We've seen that a couple times here tonight, and that could cause an incident out there on the racetrack. And I don't know if that would be me risking it that hard. Not at this point in the race, but these guys, they know what they're doing, and that 21 has been very fast tonight, prioritizing that top spot. And look who's moved up into 3rd and 4th. Is contact. AJ Green goes sliding into turn 3, and he's able to save it. The 28 got into the back of him.
Porter dealt in the bumper into 3 and 4. Green held on to it. Brandon Banks is going to look on the inside for 6th, but another close call as Green starts to drop kick through the top 5. Gets sliced out of it completely. Austin Reedy, the spoiler, to enter into 8th. A lot of drama as of the last several laps, and looking at Benson and Moreno's fight, they were starting to see a mirror full of white and black. It was Eric Schaefer and Lawson Peel who crept up by at least a 10th or so. Now they're starting to bring themselves into the fight.
And that's your championship leader running 4th right now. And he does not want to let these two get that big of an advantage. He wants to make sure that the lead stays at least the same by the time they exit here today.
An onboard look with Schaefer, who's led a bunch of laps tonight from Rockingham already, a total of 29 of the 103. And one of those drivers to start on pole. Schaefer has not seen victory lane in a while. The last time we saw Schaefer come away with a W was in the regular season at Indianapolis Raceway Park. Him against Lawson Peel in that one, where Peel had a face full of the inside wall midway through the race. And Schaefer, of course, one of those drivers always to watch for at the short tracks. Sits in a lap about a 10th faster than their leaders, 25.3, but now at 25.5 their leaders go just a tad faster. So if you're a Moreno here, you're holding on to clean air. You saw that attempt, at least multiple attempts, by Kyle Benson. You look back in your mirror, you see 3rd and 4th catching up. What's going through your mind here at 105?
Well, we know exactly what's going through his mind because he's now right back to running the bottom. So I think he wants to try and take care of those tires and set himself up for this next run.
Moreno came home in 8th after starting in that very same position last week at Chicagoland Speedway, and that in turn was good enough to get him a 4th place standing in the playoffs, 15 points behind, of course, Lawson Peel, but he is tied with Eric Schaefer and just 1 point behind his teammate Jaden Porter, who runs into the top 5. And you brought up a great point, Francisco, under break. If you're Moreno, the win certainly is the goal, because every driver wants to win, of course, but if you can escape with a decent finish in a clean race car without burning yourself up too harshly, then you're going to walk away with either 2nd in the point standings or maybe a top 3. You could even beat Lawson Peel based on the trajectory and the trends of how he's run tonight.
You could, but at that point, that just comes down to what is he prioritizing in that race car. It may be, and it comes to preparation, and we've talked about this in other broadcasts, especially in the playoffs. If you change your approach now, does it affect you in a negative way, or that kind of conversation? So if you're Ethan, if you race this any differently than you would in the regular season, does it hurt you? Or if you try and take care of it, does it actually help you? I think that's a decision the driver has to make, especially right there in that moment. at least me personally, that I can't even tell you a straight answer. It really is very dependent on the situation. There's so many races to go, but every point is going to matter in this battle. There's just too many good drivers out there, Kenneth. You can't really afford to make mistakes.
And when you've got the best drivers in this series, Eric Schaefer, Lawson Peel, not that far away, I mean, you're looking at really tough competition. They're drivers who know how to beat the others, especially on the long run, physically and mentally. And speaking of the run, AJ Green, what an abysmal run this has been since the restart. So lap 110, he dropped from a top 3 spot to now outside, or just basically inside the top 10. And almost going to lose it completely as CJ Munier, Patrick Thompson among those that are behind him.
If you remember, 48 was one of the first cars to bring it down pit road under the green flag, and these guys did not stop under caution. So he has one of the older tires out there, and it's not by much, but it's certainly taking its toll.
Green is holding on for dear life against CJ Munier, one of the Drinkin' Bros Racing Chevrolets. And speaking of Drinkin' Bros Racing Chevrolets, 68 laps down behind these two is Michael Newball. So it's nice to see him finally back in action after his engine basically expired following the hard hit to the inside wall on one of our early cautions of the race on the back straightaway. Newball is, of course, very far from success in this race to hold on to some points, but to be able to finish is good enough in the case for Newball, and could hold on to maybe more spots gained at race end. Of course, he has 8 laps before he can catch up to 24th place Christopher Bishop from Murphy Motorsports. So Newball looking to make the best out of a pretty tough situation, as here in second place on tap. Lawson Peel has gained over his teammate Eric Schaefer. Peel setting faster laps than your leaders by almost 2 to 3 tenths, and the Season 4 champ on the hunt here at lap 113.
Da-da. Da-da. That's what I'm hearing right now, because he's starting to work his way up through the field. He had a struggle the first 100 laps, but as we've mentioned, now that the race is really starting to matter, there's that 12 car showing up when it matters.
And as soon as we're past halfway, that was the go button for Peel. Dives on the inside on Benson, and that is an easy pass, probably one of the easiest passes we've seen completed over a long run here at Rockingham. Impressive stuff by the defending winner here at the Rock. And now the next objective, catch up to Moreno. These two have come to blows at short tracks before this season, most notably Bristol, where Francisco Moreno won that fight. Does Peel win the war here in the playoffs if he's able to catch up?
And that's the last time we saw Ethan win the fight, and it was with his previous car number in the 43. We haven't seen him go to victory lane ever since he made the switch to the 21. That's still a win he's trying to fight for, but you see just how much the 12 is able to cut into the lead in the entrance of these corners. It's at least a tenth or two that he gains on corner entry. We'll see how consistent he's able to keep that up until he gets up with him.
And he is one of those that really hasn't altered his line throughout the race. He's somewhat flirted with the middle and the top, but you'll often see him at the very bottom of this track, and that's the bread and butter for Lawson Peel. We call him the Iceman because he is cool and calm no matter what situation you throw at him, and especially at tracks that really demand a lot out of tire saving and skill overall. Lawson Peel was one of those that could execute perfectly. The Season 4 champ closes in now another 10th chopped off from the advantage put on by Moreno. Benson is also starting to flail back in this run because closing in is Eric Schaefer. So Benson on his highline approach that worked out the first half of this race isn't starting to pan out as successfully, and Benson travels back to the bottom for more grip.
And Austin Reedy's trying to make a run for the top 5 inside of Jaden Porter.
So is this... Oh, Porter's
around
right
Porter.
Behind Austin Reedy, and Porter make contact. They clash, entering turn 3, and that's the yellow. Jaden Porter is going to get right back at Reedy on the apron of 3 and 4. And you saw from the back bumper look of Kyle Benson, both of them sideways. And that's the yellow once more. Here's what happened.
See what happened here. We got the 34 on the inside coming off the corner. It's been a tough spot to be on the inside. Not really sure. That right there is a tough angle to tell exactly what happened. You can definitely tell there's contact. Fortunately for the 28 and his playoff hopes, it doesn't look like there's too much damage on his race car from the contact that happened. But let's see if we can get a better view of how exactly this happened and where the contact came. Oh, it looks like the 34 just got too close. Just tried to angle the corner a lot better, get a lot closer to the 28 to see if it could give him an advantage to get around him. But it was too close for comfort, and he just barely nudges him in the left rear.
Preemptively makes contact before the corner.
Yeah.
Here's a look from Reedy. Attempted side drafts, gone wrong. Can't even fit a piece of paper through both of those cars. They both go sideways, and Reedy gets extra damage dealt with the rear bumper as Porter gets into him. And that brings out our most recent caution with 80 laps to go. Here's the field on pit road. Our most recent look. We'll see who arrives out first from this white line, flanked by this green cone. Everyone out. Peel looking to win it against Moreno. Almost does, but falls short as Schaefer has
truffles.
a miraculously slow stop.
It's not a slow stop, Kenneth. That's a penalty.
Another penalty for Eric Schaefer. And it's the third straight week that Schaefer sees a black flag on pit road. The Achilles heel of Schaefer's playoff run so far.
Like I said, he was able to get away with it at Chicago. Very fortunate that it happened here under the caution flag. But you just can't make that mistake too many times, Kenneth, and expect to still be in the hunt. Right there, he's behind Kyle Benson. He's been running top 5 all night long. He's going to lose that track position. He'll have to start tail end. And I think it was right there as they tried to close the gap in on the entry. Just might have been just barely over. And it was enough to set off the triggers for him to be speeding on pit road. You see him, he was right behind Benson the entire time. Let's see if it's anywhere before his stall. You see he builds a gap. So he's certainly laid off.
Looks like he picked up speed in the middle of the pit lane. I'm not sure how entirely accurate that graphic was on the exact
I think
speed.
that's now on the outlap.
But for Eric Schaefer, that looked to be pretty fast, entering and then midway through the run to his pit stall. So Eric Schaefer with another crucial mistake. And while we have given the benefit of the doubt for Schaefer that the mistakes have come early in the race, to which he has a lot of time to gain, and now you're only 80 laps in, under 80 laps from the checkered flag. You make a mistake like this, and it's probably not going to help your cause. And Schaefer, as a result, is going to drop all the way down to 16th. He's still going to be on the lead lap, but he's going to let everybody through in the process.
I will say that this actually could be a blessing in disguise, because he's going to bring it to pit road again. He's going to top off. If you look at the amount of laps to go, Kenneth, that is right on the mark.
It is.
So,
but
might want to
you
think
also
about it.
could argue that everyone
That
up
they ran all those
here
caution
is
laps.
saving under the yellow, so they could theoretically make it.
They could, but that top off is certainly going to give him at least a lap or two advantage, which, I mean, that could be a huge advantage if we do go green between now and the end of the race. But it's also important to remember that opening run had a lot of caution flags in it. I'm not sure if these guys are depending on it. You see on board with the 21, he's in 4th gear and clutching from time to time. So he's certainly trying to save as much fuel before he can, before he has to take the green flag. But I wonder what the actual number is that these guys can make it if it goes green. It's probably closer to 65. So they're probably still short, but maybe banking on a couple of cautions between now and the end of the race. I think if we get a long enough run, tires are going to be too important for them to miss out on. But the pace car is going to make that left-hand turn. The 21 is going to have to hold off Lawson Peel.
Checked up on the inside lane, but Moreno pulls away, entering turn 1 on Peel. Benson looking for a move on the inside onto 2nd place, but no avail coming out of turn 2 to Thunder Alley. Moreno holds on to a 0.2 of a second advantage. We're looking at, like you said, Francisco, 65 to 70 laps on a green flag stint. This is the most pivotal that we could see all night long. Porter goes to blows with the car in front. That was Craig Launslager. They head into turn 1, door to door.
Trying to see if he could get some of that lost track position back outside the top 5. And he got a good bite off the corner. He's going to try and see if he can send it to the inside in turns 3 to get cleared of this number 13. He's going to roll the bottom pretty nicely. And Launslager is going to keep the nose in on the outside. And you see just behind him, Patrick Thompson now challenging the inside of Colin Forster back to turn 1. And Porter, unable to get around the 13. But he does so now off of turn 2.
Clears, and could have been the second time that he makes some sort of contact with a Murray Media Motorsports driver. Does not want that to be the case. Patrick Thompson going up against AJ Green. This is going to be for 9th, and this is probably the best racing we've seen out of Patrick Thompson through the top 10, starting back in 24th, and we saw him up in the lead for several laps after staying out on a call, then coming down pit road, 47 laps into his stint in the first half of the race. But Thompson has only led 4 laps, and we've seen him near the rear of the field based on his pit strategy call. Nice to see Thompson up in this rank as Green slaps the outside wall and could give the 88 another advantage. Entering turn 1, nice fight as Porter up ahead gets under Scott Healy, who runs a race high 6th place.
Porter's able to get around him. That's another spot for the 28. He looks rejuvenated after that incident, Kenneth. Maybe a little bit motivated to get those spots back.
Just one of those things as a driver, characteristics as we call them, Francisco, where something bad happens to you and you say, all right, you lean forward and you get to work. Jaden Porter, the season champ, has gone to work. Look at this, 3 wide. Behind him, though, Healy stuck in the middle, and Forrester slaps the wall.
Hard. He got hard into the outside wall. AJ Green now looks to the middle. There's still 3 wide going into turn 3, but that was a pretty big hit on the 99, who almost made a power move around the outside to get around those cars, but unfortunately now he's going to have to battle with his teammate for the position.
Well, whatever happens, Green and Lounslugger do not want to be in this position with Forrester on the outside. Green has already come to contact with his teammate before to bring out a yellow. Lounslugger has been near so many incidents over the course of the night, and both of them as playoff drivers that pretty much need points in order to survive come Richmond next week. They need good runs tonight, but AJ Green is playing physical offensive play against Colin Forrester entering turn 1.
And he's the one in the playoffs, so he's hoping that his teammate can cut him some slack. None of it so far. Colin Forrester being very aggressive. But meanwhile, Eric Schaefer still has not made any actual positions on the racetrack. He's had to get around some of the lappers, but he's currently running 16th.
It's another close battle on the racetrack. Austin Reedy, Lance Hill, this is for 12th. Reedy, of course, repairing his Ford Mustang after the initial contact with Porter to bring out our most recent caution. So far, so good between these two as they run back inside the top 15. So things have calmed down quite a bit, but Jaden Porter's starting to come alive in this run. He has picked up a lot of time on Brandon Banks. And now Kyle Benson, who was a force to be reckoned with for the lead several moments ago, starting to sort of mix in with everybody in the rest of the top 5 and is now a 2nd and a 10th away from the 2nd place car in field.
And a lot of that does have to do with the track conditions, Kenneth. We saw when the race started, it was 110 degrees. And now, as the 54 gets loose on the bottom, it's going to open the door for the 28 to possibly make a move. Let's see if we can see what the track temperature is right now on the racetrack. 3/4 of the way through this race, and you see it's down to 100. It's not much cooler, but that 10 degrees does play a huge role in the way the track feels and the way it goes about wearing out those tires. So it'll still drop a little bit more between now and the checkered flag, but certainly a little bit different now than it was on lap 1. And there you see the 12 car has closed the gap to your leader. He's going to a different line to see if he can get around him.
You couple that with the over refresh too, you slicking up that outside line that Benson was so fast utilizing, and you take away the advantage that Benson had built up over the first half of the race. Now he's having to fend for himself in 3rd as Peel has been right on the back bumper of Moreno and almost employed the same strategy that Benson did out of 4. Holds back and waits for his move. And that's something that Peel is notorious for, being one of the most patient drivers, even when he's this close to taking over the race lead and therefore clean air. Peel knows where to position his car in the right place, and against a rookie like Moreno, who is equally, if not just as fast, or even faster, Peel is going to have to play his cards correctly as we head into the final 65 laps.
And he has time. That's the thing Lawson Peel recognizes, and he's very smart with. He's a very smart race car driver. He's able to realize that there's still 64, when they get back to the line, 64 laps to go in this race. Plenty of time, especially with the leader right out of his front bumper. So it's just about figuring out what to do and when to do it.
Peel last time by was just a tad faster. Moreno set in at 25.059 by 0.05. Peel was faster. off the corner the last time through. Let's go through the field here on the KBueno Racing Network, and of course we'll start with your race leader, Ethan Fonseca Moreno, who up until this point has led 100 laps out of the 137. The California driver took over the lead under yellow and has been gunning for a race win since Bristol, where he came to blows with the driver right behind him, Moreno, in a hot, contentious run for his first win in a while.
Your championship leader running second, going for the race lead, Lawson Peel. He's had a good start to the playoffs, came away with a top 3 finish at the Chicagoland Speedway. Had a slow start here tonight, but right now battling for the lead, trying to extend that championship lead.
Kyle Benson, the Pennsylvania native, was in contention for the lead earlier in this race, has fallen back, but third place could be a win for the driver out of Williamsport. He finished in 7th last week at Chicagoland Speedway, holds on to a 6th place into the standings for the 4-wide racing playoffs. Pennsylvania's Kyle Benson is one to watch for late. Might unleash something late in the going. Still a really fast Ford Mustang on his hands.
Jaden Porter, who got a top 5 at Chicagoland to put him second in the point standings, is on his way to potentially another top 5 finish to stay in the contention for the championship standings. Was involved in a caution just a handful of laps ago, recovered well, and he's moved up into 4th ever since.
The headlines were shocked to hear that Scott Healy, a driver who hadn't won since Kentucky in Season 2, picked up a win at Chicagoland last Wednesday. And while he hasn't had the best run in the first half tonight, well, he's become the second half Healy that we've gotten accustomed to since that race at Chicagoland 7 days ago. He started 22nd. That was the lowest he was in this race, 24th, 2 spots behind, but he has gained 17 on a route to be 5th right now. So while Healy hasn't been the best all race long, he knows a thing or two about flipping the switches at the right time. The Season 2 champ inside the top 5.
And your Season 3 champion, AJ Green, is running 6th, has been around all sorts of action here today, involved in a couple of caution flags, but right now is sitting 6th in front of Brandon Banks. He is last in the championship standings coming into this race after an abysmal end to a Chicagoland race. At this point, he's just looking for any kind of good momentum to take with him to Richmond, a track that has done him very good, and he has had a win in this series, which is going to be his hope to try and get back into this championship fight.
2 seasons ago, one of the 16 drivers in that race at Rockingham Speedway was Brandon Banks. Came home with a top 5 finish after starting in 8th. And the Reese's Chevrolet, who won at Talladega earlier this season, has been running quite well in the playoffs so far in 2024. Decent finish at Chicagoland, and here tonight running inside the top 7, making this move on AJ Green for 6th. One of those also Chevrolets, like Scott Healy, who started deep in this field but has clawed his way through a lot of the calamity. He's gotten through many close calls. Currently looking at a top 10 on the marks.
Craig Lownslugger's had himself a quiet evening tonight, has ran into top 10 for most of it, and he's trying to see if he can do whatever he can to give himself any kind of advantage in the points. It's been a very quiet night. If he can keep it quietly and possibly get a top 5, top 10 finish, Kenneth, I think he'll take that.
He's been through a lot so far tonight, no doubt about it. CJ Mounier, one of the non-playoff spoilers in the back half of this top 10, is he slaps the outside wall, travels down the racetrack. It was Austin Reedy he was fighting the spot with. But CJ Mounier out of the 2nd Drinkin' Bros Racing camp, the driver out of Verona, New Jersey. It's one of those looking to amplify Drinkin' Bros Racing's 2's momentum as the organization champion of the 4-wide racing TJ's Team Series, running inside the top 11 now after Patrick Thompson. While we were going through the field, Lawson Peel did take away the race lead from Ethan Fonseca Moreno, and while Moreno is still there, within at least a 10th or so, Peel made that move, and it's all about how Moreno can respond, coming to 50 laps to go.
And now the roles are reversed. Now it's how can he get by Lawson Peel? And it's going to be very challenging. We've seen Ethan for a while in this race be the one in the front being able to dictate, but I think he has to learn from that driver that was behind him for a lot of that previous run, and you see it right there. He's going to have a shot going into turn 1.
Here comes Moreno, back for the action, entering the first corner, and that could help Kyle Benson just slowly reel in the 2 Chevrolets that are based in a white color. Peel's going to win the race off of turn 2 and use the middle lane to his advantage. And here, Francisco, if you're Moreno, you've been running the inside lane, but then you see Peel running this much faster. Moreno, how much does he have to alterate his lane in order to get some sort of run on the 12 car?
Not much. I mean, we've seen, like I mentioned earlier today, there's no real strict lines here compared to most racetracks. So if you could just get maybe a quarter of the nose, half a nose of a difference, it can make a very big difference, believe it or not. And you see, he has the nose there. He's showing it to the inside. He's being very calm, but look at the 38. He has made a big run to catch up to these two, and it's a three-way fight for the top spot.
He was 4/10 faster than Moreno's last cross to the line stripe, and now is almost 4/10 faster again. Kyle Benson has dialed up the top for the second time this race. Makes a move up top on the 21 of Moreno. Will steal away second before the caution flag comes out. And it's Austin Reedy torn up in turn 2.
And he's going to immediately tow that one. You see the huge front end damage on the car 34. And he was racing with AJ Green. There's a spot inside the top 10. And you see all the way on the bottom, a lot of room being given, but he goes into turn 1 and just was not quite clear. And oh my, ends up upside down into the safer barrier, and a little bit of the catch fence comes to rest on all 4 wheels. That is a violent crash.
That's a nasty hit. Here it is out of 4. Onboard look from Reedy. As he dives underneath AJ Green. Green gets right into that right side quarter panel, and up and over goes Reedy. The second car to be on their side or completely flipped over. Remember Curtis Kelly on lap 1 of 200. Well, lap 151 of 200. Austin Reedy involved, and even worse so, Francisco, AJ Green is going to get dealt a harsh blow for the second straight week in the playoffs.
Yeah, that's not what AJ Green needed, and you see the smoke trailing from there. We saw how many laps down Newbrawl went with that incident for himself. You can...
Oh, penalty!
Essentially...
I believe, or just a missed pit stall for Pio. Ethan Fonseca Moreno.
No, that's a penalty!
What has
That's
happened
a penalty
here
on the
entering
12.
pit road?
That's a penalty on the 12 car, Kenneth. The jacks never went up.
Actually, no, I think
he's
fine.
out.
He missed the stall, and I believe he almost got beat exiting pit road. My apologies, but he wins it. Oh, that was a scare.
Oh, man.
I was scared. I thought he was
going
to be in the same boat as Eric Schaefer. I thought.
Let's watch that again and see if it was the case, because we kind of caught it at the last second as we were coming back from replay.
He did
Let's see
miss
here.
his
He's
stall,
leading
though,
the
for
pack.
sure. Right here.
No, just
Oh, no,
a late
like
animation.
Okay. Yeah, it appeared, though,
Late
on our
animation.
look that he did not make the stall, and he wasted a ton of time. But instead, he did make it without a problem. So, a scare avoided, and Lawson Peel's going to hold on to the lead.
It's okay, Lawson Peel fans. He's still the leader of the race.
We're going to forgive
almost
ourselves
gave
for
them a
that
heart
one, I
attack.
think, too.
Yes.
It almost looked like he was in penalty land, but Lawson Peel is going to hold on to it. So, we're going to get a restart with at least 45 laps to go. Should be a little less, could be right on the marker, but 45 laps to go seems to be the benchmark, which now that everyone has hit pit road, Francisco, you're good on fuel. There's no concern about that whatsoever. It's going to come down to tires and longevity. So now how do you attack this if you're any one of the top 3, let alone the top 5, as Jaden Porter and Scott Healy have snuck into the mix?
If I was Kyle Benson, I hope that caution would have came out a lap sooner. With the way he was charging, he definitely was going to end up passing both the 21 and the 12. But on the pit stops, loses the spot to Ethan Fonseca Moreno, so that puts the 21 back on the front row for this restart. And there you see the look at the points, just it's so close between those in the top 6, and from second all the way down to 6th, 4 points separating all that. And AJ Green, you saw there just how many points behind he is. Couple that with Michael Newbrawl, and those two are easily going to be on the bottom of the playoff bracket going into Richmond. It's going to take a miracle in the last 7 races of the season for them to mount a challenge to be a champion this season. And you hate to see it for them. They've had some really good runs this season, but that's what happens when you enter the chase, Kenneth. You can't afford these bad finishes, and certainly not early, because then you're constantly on the uphill battle.
And Richmond isn't going to be easy either. It's a short track that really is conducive to many caution flags, a lot of physicality. And while AJ Green has been able to perform well at Richmond, we know that anything can strike at any moment. So far, the trend is AJ Green is on the downfall right now. We certainly hope it gets better for the Clemens, North Carolina native, who is going to have a beat-up race car tonight. He's going to keep himself in it 3 laps down, back in 18th for Michael Newbraw. He is 68 laps down, still in 24th place. Back to the restart with 45 to go from Rockingham.
And a great restart for Lawson Peel. You just expect that as a leader of the race to get that huge jump. Ethan Fonseca is going to clear for second, and it's going to be Jaden Porter battling the 38 of Kyle Benson for the top 3 spot.
There was something that sparked a fire in this 28 car, because ever since he was in that caution with the 34 of Austin Reedy, he has been blistering fast. Porter clears Benson, gets an eye on his teammate entering turn 1, but it may come down to if Porter can help Moreno versus getting by him for second.
Yeah, if they race each other for second, that's certainly going to help Lawson Peel pull away. If Porter can do anything to try and help Moreno get up and at least give himself a fighting chance against the 12 car, then you got to do it.
And Kyle Benson, who came to life at the end of that last run and beats Moreno for second place right as the caution came out across the speedway. He sits fourth, running the inside lane, but challenging right behind him is Brandon Banks alongside Scott Healy. That fight decided for what's 5th place on the racetrack. We should expect Benson to move up the racetrack later in the run, but he is hitting the bumps and loose out of turn 4.
That's not really going to help his cause. You got to use those tires up a little bit and heat him up and lose him some time.
A look on board with the Cheez-It number 38 of Benson, and that's the challenge up ahead. Porter, Moreno, and Lawson Peel, they're slowly starting to gap, and this is almost a mirror image. Another caution comes out, though, and involved is going to be CJ Munier. There's a separate car that's also taking part in this incident. It's Craig Parks, the rookie driver, as his suspension is absolutely destroyed on the right front, and the yellow's out again.
Oh boy. Cautions breed cautions, Kenneth.
Well, it started right on the back straightaway. Ryan Pandicio almost directly involved, and this is the aftermath as Alshire came loose. Tyler Murray hooking Craig Parks into the outside wall, but really the catalyst of this is what happened with Munier down the back straightaway versus Pandicio. Slight contact, you run out of real estate, there's the carnage.
Yeah, it looked like just tapped the wall there, bounces off of it into the car on the inside, and that's what sets that whole thing off.
So here's a better look at it from turns 1 and 2. That red, white, and black Chevrolet kind of barely grazed the wall, but Pandicio was really closing up and eliminating any of the open space that was caught up between them. And while Munier gets a hit of it, Craig Parks gets the worst of it. And ultimately brings out our next yellow of the race. There are the 2 Chevrolets parked on pit road with heavy sustained damage and may elect to keep on going, but it really is going to be a tough route if they want to get any sort of positive outlooks after this one, and to get a top 10 also would be pretty hard to get, as they will stay a long time on pit road repairing their race cars. Lawson Peel will hold on to the lead inside 40 laps to go. So I don't think, Francisco, we had enough time to really take in what was going on in this run. It was practically short enough to where we consider everyone still on even playing field, but was there anything that you noticed on that last run that might be of note here in the final 40?
It's going to be hard to get past that 12 car. I mean, when he gets that lead, he's not going to give it up, especially not in this point in the race. If you want to get around him, you're going to have to try some really bold stuff, and you're going to have to deal with whatever repercussion that is after the race. But to get around him, it's going to take a lot of effort, to say the least. And the driver who's dominated here today is running P2. He wants to win. He's finished in the top 3 so much since his last win. How much effort does he try to put into that race win?
And how bad does he want to win against this driver in particular, the Season 4 champ, the defending winner here, and also a driver that's on a 5-race streak of top 10 finishes. 4 of those were podiums. 1 was a win at Indianapolis Motor Speedway several weeks ago in the regular season. So it's a driver that has created so much success for himself ever since entering the series in Season 3. And as Moreno, I don't think he really thinks of himself as a rookie. it appears that he's a seasoned driver with the way he's run this season, and the same could go for Luke Knupp, who's also bearing the yellow stripes this season in the 4-wide series. But Moreno desperately will want to beat Lawson Peel more than anyone else. And we've heard Francisco Lawson say before, Moreno, Eric Schaefer, Luke Knupp are drivers he's feared actively on the racetrack. And they're always fast, always drivers that are hard to beat. I'm sure that Moreno feels the same way about Peel. And this is going to be an ultimate clash with 37 to go when we get this restart.
Oh boy. Can't wait to see what challenge the 21 and the 28 are able to mount. But with Lawson Peel taking that outside lane, Kenneth, I like the 38's odds here.
Benson will get the jump from the 12. Depends on how early he hits the gas pedal going into the restart zone. It'll be 37 to go from the Rock. Now lap 163 restart. Bow ties on the front row once again. Lawson Peel and Ethan Fonseca Moreno to see the green flag first. Pace cars down. Peel has the control. He gets away first. We're back under green.
He got a good jump. Not as good as the last one, but still a good enough jump to clear the 21. And there you see Ethan Fonseca is going to be right on his bumper, and Kyle Benson side by side with Jaden Porter. He'll take the 3rd spot away.
It seemed though Peel checked up the outside lane for a split second, and Benson really couldn't get to the gas earlier than Moreno nor Jaden Porter. Moreno floats up high out of 4, looking for some sort of run out of the corner. Benson will indeed have the advantage positively. Moreno sends it into turn 1, looking on the season 4 champ for the lead.
I think in 3 and 4 is where the advantage of running that outside is a lot bigger. And you see going into here, he's going to try and charge it in. But if we've seen anything of the 38 and how big his runs have been, it's when you back up that entry. That 21's not really backing up the entry. It still gives him a pretty decent run. And maybe he should consider running it just a little bit differently if he wants to really get alongside that 12.
He runs the same line here in 1 and 2. Sticks it to the left side
but he's
tires
right there.
on the yellow line. He is there. Dives on the inside. Entering turn 3. He has a nose there, but Peel's going to hold on to it out of 4.
That's the problem with trying to make that pass on the bottom, is you won't get that run off the corner. And that outside is not going to be given to you. It's going to be very hard for the 21 to get on the outside of Peel on the straightaway, because if he does, you could expect him to get that spot.
But you also have to believe, Francisco, this is a marathon, not a sprint. You're within 35 laps left to go. If this goes green all the way, you're thinking about tires that are going to wear considerably, and you have to think about outlasting on the long run. Problem is for Moreno, he's been on the opposite end of the spectrum twice, with Peel beating him on a long run and then Kyle Benson catching up to second. You're sort of in a sandwich. Moreno, though, has to be consistent. He stays within striking distance of Peel, but to no avail, holds on to this distance for now with lap 168 on the books.
And if we think about this just speaking outright, I think right now this isn't so much as the battle for the win as he sees this as having to pass that championship contender to close that gap. It happens to be for the race win, but if he passes Lawson Peel, he's going to gain points on him. If he doesn't, he's going to lose more points on him. And I think if you're Ethan Fonseca, you certainly want to head into Richmond with a smaller gap than what you entered this race with. And I think that's really what the fact of the matter comes down to.
He will, though, beat Jaden Porter and Eric Schaefer. But again, Francisco, like you said, it's all about at what cost to the points leader. If you're not beating the points leader, then what's the point? As Adam Alashire slaps the outside wall hard out of turn 2, hemorrhages a ton of time to his Skybox Racing teammate, Ryan Pandicio, who's going head-to-head with the lap car in Brady Cox. Two Supras looking to point themselves in a better position going into Richmond next Wednesday. But so far, staying single file on the outskirts of the top 10. A look back to third, where Kyle Benson is starting to see more of the 28 car in his rear view mirror. Jaden Porter picking up the pace.
And Jaden Porter, of course, still trying to see if he can maintain a sizable spot second in the points, but his teammate is having a good enough run to where he could take that away from his teammate. But Jaden Porter has Scott Healy right behind him, so before you can think of Kyle Benson, he's got to try and defend against Scott Healy. But looking back at the front of the field, Kenneth, it's just the 21 can't really get within 2 car lengths of that race leader, he's going to have to try something different. And it depends, again, like I mentioned to you earlier in the broadcast, how aggressive is he willing to be? Because earlier in the race when it was against Kyle Benson or Eric Schaefer, that's different. Right here, that's the guy you got to beat. Lawson Peel is the one you're going to have to beat if you want to try and get that points lead and win this championship.
And we pushed that storyline too earlier on through this race where Moreno, he didn't have to win the race as long as he was ahead of Peel. Well, now Peel's ahead of him and he happens to be in the lead. So it's just a really topsy-turvy evening from Rockingham where Moreno now has to be faced with the ultimate task of beating one of the best drivers in 4-wide history with 27 laps to go. And the last time by, Moreno was almost a full 10 slower. So 24.895 for Moreno. Peel just a tad faster, and he holds on to this advantage, but you could imagine too that Moreno is saving his Goodyear Eagles for what's going to be later in the run. He's going to pray that this stays green.
I don't know. I don't know if I'd be doing that with 25 laps to go. Yes, you do want to save the tires as Peel has a moment going into turn 3. Got very close to the wall, but it's going to cost him a little bit of time.
Peel pulls away. So a high of 0.3 of a second, the most we've seen in this run past the restart. While Kyle Benson remains 0.3 back. Could pull the move on the 21 if he gets close enough. More cars into the wall. 2 cars, in fact, and it's the Skybox duo once again. They're having a rough time out of turn 2.
That team is going to have a pocket full of expenses called wall damage by the end of this one, and there's still 25 to go.
Initio and Alishire, front and back. They are 9th and 10th in the point standings going into tonight's race from Chicagoland, where Ryan Pandicio ended up finishing inside the top 15. It was 13th. Alishire was 15th, but of course Alishire having the extra bonus points from the win at Daytona, accrued earlier in the regular season, and really fighting their race cars hard, scrapping for whatever points they can muster, but against each other as teammates, chasing Lance Hill for the 9th place position out of turn 2. Thankfully, they don't hit the outside wall this time around, so definitely learn their lesson, but 2 of these guys certainly ones to watch out for in these playoffs, especially Pandicio running in as a rookie. This here are the 2 Drinking Bros Racing Chevrolets through 6th and 7th, and what's most surprising to me, Francisco, is that we have not seen Eric Schaefer get back in this deal. We know the pit road speeding penalty hurt him sorely, but we know that Schaefer has done a nice job of bouncing back. However, the pace hasn't really been there for Schaefer in this second half.
Not as good as it was in that first half, especially that first run. But if he can walk away with a top 10, certainly possibly a top 5 finish, which is still on the cards for him, it's certainly damage limitation, but he certainly could have done a lot better.
And he's in this train that's led by Kyle Benson from 3rd place, so you can say that first all the way back through 7th, they're within a second and a half, just so close to each other and really not pulling away all too much. As that time by, Moreno was a tad slower, but this time through, he's catching up within 0.2 of a second, once more with 20 laps remaining.
How patient does the driver of the 21 get in these closing laps? When does he decide to press the issue? And how much does he press? Because at some point that 38 is going to hit that switch and he's really going to start to close the gap in. And he might end up being faster than both of your leaders. The question is, how racy do they get with each other instead of Lawson Peel?
And part of hitting that switch for Benson is going up top to run the high lane. And that last time by, he ran the very top near the outside wall.
You see it there.
And there he is again.
He's got a big run down the front straightaway. He's closing in the gap on your top 2 for sure. And I think the 21 sees that because he's moved up as well. But we've documented he has not ran it the same way the 38 has. And that's kind of been to his detriment because it hasn't allowed him to really make any passes with it. Kyle Benson, on the other hand, has found something specifically that works for him and has been able to make passes, at least give himself attempts to make a move, which the 21 has not, at least not so far.
Aerial shot of the top 3, all within half a second. Kyle Benson has picked up the pace. It was a little slower on the last trip around Rockingham. Moreno loose out of turn 2. And this ultimately, coming to 7 laps to go, is going to be the run for the win. You cannot count out any of these 3 and give credit to Kyle Benson for his blistering pace tonight. A driver who's been always behind somebody. He's always been in second or third, but always never in the race lead. Benson tonight looking for his first win since last season, which came his way at the Charlotte Roval. Race number 21 of the season, has been picking up the pace via the high side. It's worked for him so far. He needs it to help him to victory lane, and this is a beautiful run, building up out of 4 on Moreno.
And you were able to hear just how early he picked up the throttle. I think that's what makes the way he runs that outside so effective, which the 21 has not been able to replicate so far, and gives him an advantage.
Benson instead dives low as Moreno looks up high. Expected Benson to take the higher groove and wanted to give Benson a bit of the dirty air, but the Cheez-It car plays the play correctly. And we'll head to 15 laps to go. Benson hits the wall, entering 1.
I think he'll be fine. He can definitely recover from that. He doesn't want to do it too much again, but the 21, he certainly looks like he has enough to get around the 12. The thing is, he has to play his cards right. You see just how high the 38 gets and how close to the corner entry he's able to do it. That carries him a lot of speed down the front straightaway. The 21 has got to adjust his line if he wants to get by the 12 to do it.
Unanimous decision is Moreno has to play some sort of strategy game mentally for Peel to either change his line and get out of his rhythm, or something else, because if not, Peel could just hold on for the last 13 and call this one over. From Rockingham Speedway, Benson again searches for grip up top, and it will help him close the gap on Moreno once more in second place. But Ethan has remained stacking here behind the race leader. He searches once more up in 1 and 2 to find some sort of advantage on Peel, but there's no breaking the defense for the Mississippi driver, at least just yet.
He has to try it in 3 and 4, and 3 and 4 it's certainly proved to have been more effective. You see right there in 1 and 2, kind of runs the bottom, not the exact same way as Peel, but Benson's right there. If the 21 isn't careful, that could give up the second place position and might just end any battle for the lead.
And I was about to say that, Francisco, if you're Kyle Benson, is it worth challenging for second? Because sure, maybe you won't count yourself in as a race winner against Peel, but you could have a point advantage over Moreno. Is that more worthy than going out for the win entirely and helping Moreno get closer? Or is it just a matter of time?
I think you do whatever you feel is best for you. If you're Kyle Benson, if you're the 21, you have to beat that 12 car at all costs.
And they are approaching a bit of lap traffic, most notably
he's running the bottom.
Tony Kibbett, who has been in the middle of lead lap cars the entire race, but
that gives Ethan a chance.
Here. Moreno, a run out of 4, worthy of note, dives to the inside with 10 laps to go for the lead.
Contact!
And contact, Moreno sideways in 1 and 2. He will save it, and we're gonna stay green. Peels out ahead by 7 tenths.
That goes back to what we were talking about, Kenneth. How aggressive does he get, and does it cost him? And it did so there.
Moreno going for broke and comes up empty. Here's a look at what happened. The run out of 4 goes to the inside for the lead and cooks it, entering turn 1.
You can see he was hitting those bumps and was starting to lose the back end of the race car, it seems, and probably didn't want to hit the 12 car, but the contact happened. So here's on board now with Ethan Fonseca as this happened. He goes to the inside and he feels this is his chance, this is his time to go. Right there, you see it's just, it looks like the car got sideways for a second, and as it was correcting, it starts to spin again. Good job saving the race car, firstly. But unfortunately, look how many positions he lost in the process. He's down to 8th. That's the exact same thing that we were talking about Chicagoland when he got into the wall, that he was giving himself all that damage. If he got passed by Kyle Benson and finished his 3rd, Kenneth, that is a lot less of a point loss than finishing in the 8th position, which, if it stays green, is probably where he's going to end up. And that's the mentality you got to have in this chase.
Consistency matters overall, and Moreno is going to come up short. But the fight for the lead isn't quite done yet, because Kyle Benson has taken Moreno's place. He's running up high and will cross the line for 6 laps to go. Benson was faster by a full 10th on the last lap. Crossing the line this time by, he's almost faster by another 10th.
The question is, can he get into the position that Ethan got himself in, but make it work? I think Peel's willing to give these guys the bottom. He's not going to give them the top.
Peel was thanking his lucky stars that he didn't get spun by Moreno entering turn 1, because that could have been nasty for not only Moreno but for Peel, and would have easily handed Kyle Benson the race lead. 5 laps to go from Rockingham. David Brackett, the lap car, in front of these two. We should not expect him to play that big of a role. Should let these leaders by on the back straightaway through Thunder Alley, and he does. Benson, though, is within 2/10, looking for his first win since the Charlotte Roval in the last 4-wide campaign, while Peel is looking to steal away his 5th win of the season.
Benson's not going to go down without a fight. We've known him for so long, Kenneth. He's trying to go for that first win since the Roval last season. His first win of the season. This could really help his championship odds. He's going to go for broke on this.
Benson with another great run out of 2, but stays within at least 2/10 of your race leader. Dives in 3 and 4. And the exact move he wants to implement is the exact move that he saw the 21 of Moreno do the last time through. Peel is loose though out of 4, so Benson will get even closer to turn 1.
But you see Peel was waiting to just hang on the outside long enough to prevent the 38 from charging that entry, but he's going to get the wall off of 2. Here comes Benson
to the inside for the lead in turn 3. Benson down low. Can Peel hold on to it? He does. Benson slides up, and Peel's going to stay put with the lead. 2 laps to go.
How aggressive does Benson go into turn 1? Is he going to try to charge it up the bottom? He does, and he's going to almost get into the 12 car. Peel slides up, but he gets clear of Kyle Benson. A fantastic racing that these two are providing as Eric Schaefer battling for the 3rd spot. An excellent recovery job from him. Kyle Benson's not going to give up as they come to the white flag.
Here we go. Out of 4, Benson has 1 more lap to put something together, and it's the final mile and 17. From Rockingham Speedway. Peel looking to hold on while Benson wants to steal it away. Moreno tried once, Benson tried once, and we'll see if the second attempt is worthy of a race win. Final charge in 3 and 4. Peel will hold on. It's the 5th win of the season for the Mississippi native who watches the throne and holds on to win at Rockingham.
Excellent battle. Kyle Benson tried, but he wasn't close enough on the final lap after that attempt to try a move. And Lawson Peel, showing why he's a champion of the series, was able to hold on and gets his 5th win of the season back-to-back at Rockingham. And that's going to extend his points lead by a very comfortable margin.
It's exactly what Peel needed. He was ahead after Chicagoland with all of the wins and a top 3 finish, and continues a streak of top 10 finishes to 6 as Lawson Peel takes the victory, his 5th of the season. And for the 2nd time at Rockingham, we'll jump into Paul's setup shop, Victory Lane.
And he's going to park it right into the victory lane there on the inside of the racetrack. What an effort. What a run by Lawson Peel in that second half to have that comeback drive, and compared to that first half where he was just barely able to keep it inside the top 10. But we said it. That's not someone who you can count out. We've seen it too many times. He's too successful in this league for you to say he can't do it. He absolutely can, and he proves it time and time again.
So Lawson Peel stops it in victory circle, his 5th win of the season, and does so in defensive fashion. Holds on against Moreno and a charging Kyle Benson in the waning laps to get the W. We'll look at the final race results from Rockingham Speedway, where of course it is Lawson Peel, the Season 4 champion, defending his crown here in North Carolina. Kyle Benson to come home in 2nd, and you have to imagine great points for Benson, even though he comes up short of the victory. Eric Schaefer rebounds and proves me absolutely wrong. His pace picks up at the end of the race to finish inside the top 3. Scott Healy, who's running off the momentum from the win at Chicagoland 7 days ago, will come to P4 at the checkered flag. Craig Lounslogger back and forth evening, but he never gave up, was resilient to a 5th place finish tonight. Jaden Porter, who came to life in the second half of the race, lost several spots late, and he will finish in 6th. Ethan Fonseca Moreno, another what if added to the list as he charge to the inside of Lawson Peel for the lead into turn 1, clashed with him, went sideways, saved the race car, and could only muster 7th. Ryan Pandicio holds on for an 8th place running, so decent points for the rookie. Patrick Thompson, another rookie to finish inside the top 10 as he is 9th, and Skybox's Adam Alashire closes out the top 10.
Lance Hill will end up in the 11th spot after a very troublesome race for him. Brandon Banks will end up rounding out in the 12th position with Trevor Haley. Not a fun one for him here tonight. Will finish in 13th. CJ Munier will finish in 14th. David Brackett, who got lapped there late, will get a top 15 result. Tyler Murray will end up in 16th. Tony Kivett will be in the 17th position. Brady Cox will be in 18th. Craig Parks rounds out a 19th place finish with AJ Green, another not so good result for him. He's going to try to go to Richmond and at this point just win as many races as he can between now and the end of the season. Will finish in the 20th position.
Behind them will be 21st Austin Reedy in the 34 car. Colin Forster, the Florida driver who started the race strong but ends up 22nd, 58 laps down. Michael Newbraw, who got hit by a Wyatt Brackett and got sent into the inside wall, had to take heavy damage repair and rebounds for just 23rd. 24th will go to that car of Wyatt Brackett. Christopher Bishop is 149 laps down in 25th. Curtis Kelly in the 71 went on his side at the start of lap number 1. In a turn 1, he is 26th. Kevin D'Elia is 27th. Cody Kinsey is 28th. And unfortunately, Mikey Neal in the 8th could not make the green flag. Closes out our 29-car field from Rockingham, North Carolina. Let's take a moment to get into victory lane, where we are joined by Lawson Peel in the number 12 car, who grabs his 5th win of the Season 6 4-Wide Racing TJ's Team Series. And we join him now in victory lane. Lawson, you hold on to the throne, and boy, you had to fight for it. Kyle Benson, Ethan Fonseca Moreno right on your back bumper for maybe, call it 10 to 16 or 6 to 10 laps straight. But you stay put, you play the defense, and you hold on to this W. How does it feel to do it that way and get your 5th win of the year?
Yeah, this one feels really good because that one was absolutely a fight. Like you said, I certainly didn't have the best car tonight. This track always takes me 50, 75 laps to figure it out, and then I can kind of start to go. And so eventually at some point, I felt like I made improvements, started to figure out what I needed to do. And then by virtue of, getting the outside, I think on a restart, and maybe a couple of guys having slip-ups, was able to get some track position and get up there to 2nd. And, I think when we had the caution right about lap 120, could see that was really going to split up that last run. So kind of took it easy there for a minute behind Ethan, but I knew I just couldn't beat him in the long run. He was certainly the best car all night and had been faster, and I had not been able to run him down on the long run before that. So I just felt like I needed to do something different. So tried to go up there and take the lead from him, was able to just force my way to the outside and get it. And then it was just hoping that he either wasn't going to be able to pass me back or get a caution like we did. And so that just kind of reset us and cycled us back on new tires. And then from then on, it was, just trying to figure out how hard to push there from the lead. I knew they were taking care of their stuff behind me. Benson was really, really good on the long run all night. Ethan, like I said, better than me on the long run. So I knew they were probably saving some, but just knew that I couldn't give up that position. I was just going to have to fight for it. And when Ethan got to my inside there, I wasn't trying to pinch him, but just tried to hold the middle somewhat going through there. And I'll have to look at the replay. I haven't seen it. I really don't know, what the cause of the contact was, but I hate that for him. I know he was frustrated because he certainly, I think, had the best car tonight. So from then on, just really had one more guy to hold off there, and that was the 38, and he was coming, and I got really tight there with about 3 to go and wanted to, and just missed the exit of the corner. Gave him an opportunity, and he could have slide jobbed me, kind of run me up the track there in 3 and 4, a little more than he did with 2 to go. But I can't say I would have been mad. He's had one coming for a while this year and been fast, so. But was just able to hold it off, and it's just so tough to pass, especially on the bottom. So was just trying to maintain that lead.
and talk about the differences between this race at Rockingham this year versus the 2022 race we had back in season 4, where again you were victorious, but it was a very different race, painted in its sense. You do lead the least amount of laps compared to others, just like you did with the season 4 race where your teammate Jesse Prees had basically dominated that route, and it was more so of a late race second half comeback. So to do it again, this time with an Xfinity Series car and a very different field competitively, what was that like? And can you make any similarities or stark contrasts between your last win here and then this most recent one tonight?
Yeah, well, I remember that race very well, and same thing. It took me the first half of the race to sort of figure this track out again. It's just challenging. It's not my favorite track, and but I always seem to be able to get better in the second half of the run. And that race went green at the end, and I remember passing Jesse on the long run, but that was a race where, I felt like the long runs were to my advantage. Tonight it was opposite. Normally I feel like long runs are to my advantage, but tonight, Benson, Ethan, definitely better than me in the long run. Schaefer, he got a speeding penalty there. He was really fast too. So Jaden also, I think Jaden and I were pretty equal all night, I think, but I felt like Benson and Ethan were better on that long run. So kind of a little bit of a role reversal, because I had to be the one, really having to push it and take advantage of opportunities on new tires to try to make something happen tonight, kind of do something different.
Your 28th career win in the 4-wide series comes tonight, your 5th win of the season so far in 2024, and now we head over to Richmond. There's no doubt in anyone's mind that you're going to be the points leader by a considerable margin. What's next? We know Richmond. That's where you won your first career 4-wide race at, so there's a lot of great memories at the track in Henrico County, Virginia, but what's the mindset, the motivation now after taking this W and having a podium last week at Chicagoland and still the top driver in the point standings?
Yeah, well, this is a huge win. Don't consider this a great track for me. So to win here and continue to kind of build a cushion there moving forward is huge. Don't consider Richmond a great track for me either, but same thing. I feel like I can kind of get better there as the race goes on, but that's going to be an Eric Schaefer special right there. So I'd never raced against Ethan there. I'm sure he's going to be really good too, but something tells me, or my crystal ball is I'm getting an image of Schaefer leading a lot of laps next week. So we'll see what happens. Looking forward to it.
Well, hopefully it's a short track thriller, but we know out of Chicagoland and out of Rockingham tonight, you're going to be at the top of the game for the playoffs, and everyone's going to be chasing you, and I'm sure that feels really good coming out of a track that really is tough to drive. Lawson, before we let you go on your 5th season victory, anybody you want to thank in particular after the W?
Yeah, thank you to you and Francisco, Kenneth, and KBueno Racing Network for broadcasting us each and every week. Tyler Murray, all the other admins, Paul's setup shop, and everybody, all my Drinking Bros teammates, everybody that watched tonight. And man, I just really had a blast with Benson and with Ethan there all night. Certainly didn't feel like I was the best car or I was going to win the race. So I try to just be really aggressive and make something happen. And I don't feel like I drive that way too often where I'm just really having to force it. But it was, like you said, a fight, and it was a really fun race.
Well, it was so much fun watching you up front with the rest of the competition tonight. Lawson, on behalf of all of us at the KBueno Racing Network, once again, send you a congratulations on the win from Rockingham, North Carolina. You're at the top of the playoff game. We'll see how it all shakes out heading to Richmond next week. Best of luck, and congratulations again.
Thank you.
Lawson Peel, the W here from Rockingham, North Carolina. We'll toss it back to second place where Francisco has caught up with the Cheez-It driver, Kyle Benson from Murray Beauty Motorsports.
Well, Kyle Benson, it was certainly a vintage performance from you tonight, and just unfortunately just one spot short. What more did you need to get around that X number 12 Chevrolet?
Oh, man, more drive at the bottom. It was so hard to pass. I saved my stuff up as much as I could, but I knew if I kept saving, I was just going to lose time, so I just threw caution in the wind and kind of was trying to push Moreno up to him so I can save a little more, and just trying to play a mind game and, run the top a little bit, get in a run, and kind of show him my hand a little bit, and kind of rushed Moreno up to him, which kind of helped and worked. It got him around, and it was just me and Lawson to the end. But that sucks. You don't have a lot of chances, for a win in this league, and having one kind of slip away from you, it kind of sucks, but you just kind of have to go on to the next week.
And of course, we saw it was a tight points race entering this race, and it's a tight one leaving this race from Eric Schaefer, who's now the second place driver, down to Jaden Porter in fifth. There is 3 points separating you guys there, but currently you sit third with a tiebreaker over Ethan Fonseca for that third position. So, with that being said, what is your outlook going into Richmond, and what do you think you have to do to close in the gap to Lawson Peel, which for you personally sits at 24 points?
I don't know. It's gonna take a lot. I need Lawson to not show up for a week, and maybe I have a shot at it. It's just having no points coming in is tough. But be able to claw back from 16, I think it was ninth or something to third is pretty big, and I'm enjoying it. I mean, I'm just trying to do as much as I can. I mean, these guys are fast every week, and Richmond's not one of my better tracks, and we're just gonna put some practice in. I know they got some good points, and just kind of just take it how it go. If I can just keep pulling these off, maybe something can happen and maybe something go right. But we have some stuff coming up. We got the Richmond. I think we got Sonoma coming up here soon. I don't know when that is, but it's gonna be tough. Right now, just trying to get as many points as I can and just have a shot at Richmond, because I think if I have it, not at Richmond, Homestead, if I can get my tracks right, if I can have a shot at Homestead, I think I'll be all right. But anything goes in this league, and you're just gonna have to take what you get.
And I know you definitely have Daytona circled in 2 weeks' time. That's definitely
yeah.
one you're looking to take advantage of. But Kyle, it's been a good run for you so far in these playoffs. A P2 effort here tonight. What goes into making this whole effort possible in this playoff run?
Just everybody over at Murdy Reedy, they helped me out a lot. Just getting as much practice as I can. Got a lot of stuff going on in the personal life, so just trying to get as much as I can here, and showing off kind of coming out of the trailer, fucking Sue. Just being able to be fast, and just hoping for good stuff coming here soon, man. I just gotta keep going.
Wish you the best there, Kyle, and we hope everything gets better. But we hope to see you out at Richmond, and hopefully there at Richmond, for your sake, you'll be in one position better. We appreciate the time you take with us every single week, and we hope to see you out there.
All right, thank you guys.
Kyle Benson, short of the win, but a second place finish does get him in a pretty good spot heading to Richmond next week. We'll toss it over to the third place driver. It is Eric Schaefer. And Eric, I'm going to be honest, when you had the pit road speeding penalty and you got put back through the midfield, I wasn't sure whether your pace was going to warrant a top 3 finish, but you proved me wrong 1,000%, and I'm glad that you proved me wrong for sure. A really fast car in the waning laps, you were in a pretty decent pack. What was your perspective of the whole thing, and most notably after the pit road speeding penalty and this rebound to a hard-fought P3?
Yeah, thanks, Kenneth. Thanks for the confidence in me.
I'm sorry. I apologize.
No, you're good, brother. No, man, at the early stages there, we just got too many heat cycles on the tires, and it just allowed Ethan to get around me and Kyle to get around me. It was just too many people with too many egos trying to cause too many cautions, if you know what I mean. But no, man, I ended up stepping on my pecker there and getting a daggone speeding penalty and having to ride in the back for a little bit just to try to conserve some tire usage, and work my way all the way up to, I think, ninth or 10th before that caution came out. And then I was like, all right, we're sitting in a good spot here. And then at the end, man, I told Banks, I was like, hey, I'm giving you time to try to get around Jaden. He goes, yeah, I got it. And then him and Jaden had a little bit of contact, and I was like, all right, here's my go time. And I just was able to get by him and Scott in the last 2 laps, I think. But all in all, man, it was a fun race. I really enjoyed that, but I did not enjoy getting the speeding penalty.
I can imagine, but surely it all pays off with the third place finish at the end, and it looked like you were in a really contentious pack. You, Scott Healy, Craig Lounslager, Jaden Porter. You can imagine that Moreno was there in the waning laps as well. What was that like to race those guys and to know that from basically 10 laps to go to the final lap, the race wasn't really over until it was over?
Yeah, that's why I was telling Banks. I was like, all right, man, what are we gonna do here? I said, it's closing. Laps are closing down. I said, we need to go. He goes, I can't get by him. He goes, if you're faster than me, you just get up there and go by him. I couldn't get around him without trying to make a dirty pass or something like that. But no, it was a cluster, man. It was definitely a good time. The guys were pretty clean there, giving everybody some room. But no, it wasn't. It wasn't too bad.
So a third place finish despite all that went down tonight from Rockingham, a back and forth overall night. You head into Richmond, second in the point standings, 22 behind your teammate Lawson Peel. And Lawson told me from Victory Lane, he said, what I see in my crystal ball is Eric Schaefer leading a lot of laps at Richmond. Is that true, number one? And number two, how are you feeling about Richmond next week to close out the first 3-race stint of the playoffs?
Well, I love Richmond, man. That is my all-time favorite track on this with this car. I'm feeling pretty good about it. I don't know, like Lawson said in the interview, I've never ran against Ethan or Brandon Hawken if he shows up, but I'm pretty confident. I mean, Kyle Benson's really good there too, but I hate to say it, but I don't think Lawson's got a whole lot of a shot against us normal like B car guys. But no, it's gonna be a good time at Richmond. I'm really looking forward to it, and I got some momentum going into Richmond, man. I just I need to go get me another win.
Some good finishes through the first 2 races of the playoffs, specifically this one here at Rockingham. And yeah, Richmond is going to be really exciting for sure, with all the drivers, including yourself, looking to take away a race win and to further pivot the entire tide of this postseason. Eric, before we let you go on this podium finish from North Carolina, anybody in particular you want to thank for the run?
Yeah, Kenneth, thank you again for everything you do, man. Appreciate every broadcast y'all do. It's always amazing. Really appreciate Tyler and all the admins for everything they do for us. It's a great league. Shout out to all the Drinking Bros guys, all my teammates, man. Like I always tell you, we're a little family. We hang out together all the time, every night, every week. Shout out to Reaper Speed Labs, Paul Setup Shop, and yeah, TJ's team for sponsoring the league, man.
Well, Eric, as always, we really appreciate the time. It's always great to talk to you, and we're glad that you came away with the P3 finish tonight from Rockingham. Congratulations on the podium effort after all the hard work tonight, and best of luck at Richmond. That's going to be a lot of fun next Wednesday.
Yeah, thanks, Kenneth. I appreciate it, man.
Eric Schaefer, who ends up third at the cross of the stripe, led 29 laps, had a pit road speeding penalty, but it's not about the negative side of the situation. It's about how he bounced back, and it was certainly a beautiful bounce back through the field to come home in a podium spot. So that does it for our interviews tonight from the top 3 here from Rockingham. And boy, this race was more chaotic than we expected. We had a bunch of cautions early. We had multiple cars going end over end, and we had a stellar fight between Peel, Moreno, and Kyle Benson going to the checkered flag. Now for what's next, they'll take on another short track, but it'll be much shorter and of course more conducive to contact. That'll come your way next Wednesday, and it will be at the Richmond Raceway in Henrico County, Virginia. You'll see that come your way March 20th at 9 p.m. Eastern. You'll find it right here on the KBueno Racing Network YouTube channel. That'll take us to Daytona, then Sonoma, our first and only road course race of the playoffs, Dover, Pocono, Phoenix, and then of course to Homestead and Miami Speedway to close it out for a champion. And right now, the Season 4 champion, proving why he's at the top of the game, will lead the standings heading to Richmond Raceway next week. So that'll do it for tonight's coverage of the 4Wide Racing TJ's Team Series. From Rockingham, for Tyler Murray and everyone from the admin team and race council, for Charlie Byer, Keelan Belsha at the KBueno Racing Network, and for my colleague in the booth tonight, Francisco Bacallao, I'm Kenneth Bueno saying so long from The Rock. We'll see you next week at Richmond Raceway, and congratulations to Lawson Peel on his 28th career 4Wide Racing TJ's Team Series win.